personality in poker. Two gigantic personalities in Martin Kabrhel and William Kassouf. Your opinions about the two of them?
I think I have a clear answer, meaning you have two sides. Are they good for TV or are they good for players? His game plan is to be rude. Guess who takes people out of the comfort zone? JP, Malak, and Adamu. They don't say a word.
We are very competitive people relative to the general population, and I wonder how addicted we are to competition.
I think I would be extremely surprised if I didn't struggle. If I don't have that, I will very likely go into dark places.
Who do you think the best player in the world is?
So we repeat more opinions than we form. Very different than what public opinion believes.
You are a young guy coming up today. How do you engage with this vibe stuff to some degree without getting completely carried away?
By what I tell them.
Joao Vieira, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
There's something intimidating about your name for me that I feel, whether or not I said it right, which I don't even want you to tell me, I'm going to assume I got it right. I feel like I'm always going to fuck it up. And I realized earlier, I don't have to feel bad about that because you have called me Jared so many times that you've actually initiated a defense mechanism to not worry about calling me the wrong name. You now call me Jared as a joke so frequently. That way, when you slip up and you call me Jared for real, I can't quite tell. But I could tell the last time you called me Jared. I don't remember the context, but we both knew immediately it was genuine. And you're like, oh, fuck.
Because I've said it so often. So, because in the beginning, I believe the first once or twice I might have not known, but this was a long time ago. And then for a long time, I kept calling you as a joke. And then I did remember that time, but I said, oh, fuck, I actually, now I did made a mistake, and it was not meant to be, but both great poker players.
Yeah. I live in a country where things start out as a joke and then they just become reality. So I'm very familiar with this concept.
I believe so. But
all right,
before we start, because people might be expecting this comedy show, and I just have to bring the expectations down. This is not me. It was just for the war. Now today is going to be a little bit more serious. I'm not that funny, so it just came out really well.
So let's talk about that for a moment. Joao is referring to Polarized Opinions, a segment he did with Daniel DeVoris for us, which I thought went really well. And yeah, the crowd went wild for Naza. Every comment, there's maybe like 50 comments on the video, and maybe 40 are like, holy shit, Naza's hilarious. Oh my God, he's so good. Wow, I didn't realize this guy is like a killer at the table, but he's so fucking funny.
Daniel sent me a screenshot of the voting, which was very one-sided. And it was, I don't know, like 150 to 20. And he goes like, this is why you don't get invited for private cash games. I said, yeah. That's pretty funny.
So to that end, I want to talk about personality in poker, because with you specifically, you know, that would be a very reasonable conclusion that a lot of people came to. They said, I didn't know he was funny. He just is pretty quiet when I see him playing on a stream, and he's got a pretty mean mug, kind of. He's just like looking over. He looks pretty focused. And then we have the summer that we just came out of with two gigantic personalities in Martin Kabrhel and William Kassouf. And you've got this divide. You've got a lot of people saying like, they're great for poker. We love this. Like, I'm not going to say they're identical. Clearly, Martin and Will behave quite differently in different ways. But let's start by kind of talking about your opinions about the two of them. Are they good for poker, bad for poker, good for people at the table? How do you feel about the whole situation with Kassouf?
I think there's a big difference between Martin and William. Martin Kabrhel and William Kassouf, I might call them by their first or last name. Because Kabrhel toned down a lot. He was also this antagonizing, trying to be on your nerves. Then he became a little bit more friendly. You see, once in a while, he still gets into that dark side of his, but most of the time, he's just loud. He's trying to do it on a jokingly way, and he's abused his time quite a lot, but not as much as William from what I've seen. So I think there's two different sides of it. And I think I kind of have the answer from my perspective. I think I have a clear answer, meaning you have two sides. Are they good for TV or are they good for players? And in players, then you can still split them in recreationals or professionals. Usually, which I don't agree fully, the side of the players, whatever is good for pros, people don't seem to care. Like, pros pay the buy-in as well. So they also deserve a certain level of experience, even though it shouldn't be catered to them. But they still deserve some self-respect and have some fun. Like, we're humans too, and you did pay the buy-in as well as everybody else. So I don't think the rights should be that less than the recreationals. And then I'm just going to jump. So on the pro sides, let's say it doesn't really matter too much, but it kind of still does a little bit. But we'll leave the pros to the end. But then if you go to TV, of course they're good for TV. People like to see... people like the game of poker. Don't matter. They're not looking for entertainment. They're not looking for the circus side of it, the reality show. So it doesn't matter as much. But people who just barely like the game, or they like it a little bit, of course, you're having a guy that's antagonizing, that's being funny, or trying to be funny, or just speaking loud and just annoying people. It's pretty damn good. I would give you that. But when you say, is it good for the game, you can't really just think about TV. Now, if I go to the other side, is it good for recreationals? Clearly not. Clearly not. There's some guys who like to play with Martin, so I can even give you that Martin. It's a flip if it's good or not. But I don't know anybody that likes to play with William. I just don't. You just his game plan is to be rude and annoying. He did say that my game plan is to take people out of the comfort zone.
The whole point of poker is taking opponents out of their comfort zone, so they don't play their game, right?
Guess who takes people out of the comfort zone? JP, Malak, and Adamu. They don't say a word. Like, you should take people out of the comfort zone through play. Not through just being annoying and rude and just antagonizing and just taking 10x the amount of time that other people think. And I believe the World Series are kind of protecting their customers when they give them some hard rulings, because people around them, and there's two Portuguese guys, I listened to them, and Leo as well, that were in the deep run, they don't like him. They don't like playing with him. Not because he's good, just because it is... His game plan is just to be just as annoying as possible, and then people will play bad against that. And that's not the spirit of the game. The game doesn't grow on people not having a good experience. So you should be competing inside the good rules and the good sportsmanship. That's why poker is good, because it's a social game and people like it. So people who see it as a everything goes kind of game, they don't understand the game. The game doesn't grow if people don't have a good experience, ever. Special recreationals, so it should be fun. So you should be competing inside the sportsmanship that we all have. I never seen Jason or let's use Jason Kuhn as an example, trying to antagonize anybody. Don't you think he's fierce? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you can compete fiercely without being a dick. So I think that's kind of where I stand. And I believe World Series is trying to protect not the TV, but just actually the people who pay to buy in and they want to have a good experience. And William tries to make them not have a good experience as the basis, as the rule, as a strategy. I don't think that's good for the game.
Introducing the GTO Lab ICM Trainer. Train all positions at once. The new and better way of learning poker tournaments. Master all stages of the tournament. Pre-bubble, bubble, in the money, 2 and 3 tables left, and the final table. Learn how to crush tournaments from our coaches and get the most out of the trainer. We have the biggest ICM library ever, with over 14,000 solutions created by Nick Petrangelo and Daniel Devoris. Join GTO Lab today and stay ahead of the curve.
Even just the phrase "good for the game" is kind of this very moldable starting point. Like you addressed it at the beginning. Good for the World Series, good for the pros, good for the Recs. Very different incentives. Sometimes they align, very often they do not. And that's the tricky thing, is when people talk about, like, you know, they use that heading, is Martin Kabrhel good for poker? And it's like, well, I don't know. It depends. If you're talking about the World Series Instagram account, like absolutely. If you're talking about growing the game, probably in some ways. Like I would think so. It's tough to say. Like getting, let's say, well, I think there's a mix. Like one thing, I don't know much about the social media world, but I'm getting a little bit of schooling in how YouTube works. And the views are not everything in the sense that you get a lot of useless views. Like if you put out like content about like, I don't know, a 1-2 kid trying to make it up the ranks or whatnot, maybe he gets 200,000 views on a video, but maybe like 180,000 of them are people who basically treat poker as a game show and they've never played a hand and they don't really care. So like maybe a couple of them end up playing poker, but most of that is just kind of nonsense. Like there is a big difference in terms of who you attract with your content. But there's a lot of threads to pull on here. One I want to talk about to kind of bring it back is I want to push back about competing and what Martin and maybe especially Will are doing with these strategies, if you will. I don't think competitiveness away from just trying to play your cards well is a binary proposition. There are all different lines that, where people see the line and what they're willing to cross. A lot of people just kind of use the idea in life, if it's not illegal, why not? If it's not against the rules of the game, keep pushing until you get to that. Your answer kind of implies, no, I would not do that. I would not wait for a ruling against me to kind of deem something. Basically, your ethics are coming up well before the rules. Is that right?
Oh yeah, as they should.
Yeah,
as they should. Yeah, that's how I feel.
I agree with you.
That's why I feel, and we had this discussion with time banks and the use of time banks and the use of just extra time to try to not pay the big blind or whatever. If the rules are fairly clear, and this is the rule, this is what we believe, and I've suggested this to Luca Vivaldi, and just put in the rules that time banks should be used to think and should not be used as a tool, as a strategy tool. And the ones who use it as a strategy tool, let's just say spend 8 time banks to fold 10-3-0 under the gun so you don't pay the big blind, should be punished. As soon as you put this clear on paper, then the one who are doing this, they are also going against the spirit of the game. And now I know, for example, at least in the super high roller scene, most people do not want to be seen as people they're doing something that's not for good sportsmanship. So if you just put it there, so the more rules you have, the more clear you make it, the less people will try to abuse the system, because at least in where we play most of the poker, people do not want to be seen as that guy. Nobody wants to be seen as that guy. So I think the rule is where the first where the community accepts it, and I think the community does not accept that trash talk that William does it. It just does not. Most community doesn't. And then it's the less room for subjectivity that you could leave within the rules, the better. It just becomes easier. Everybody will follow if there's clear rules.
At first, I'm tickled hearing you ask for more rules, because I feel like politically in our brief discussions before, I'm the rules and regulations guy, and you're a little bit less so. So I'm enjoying the role reversal. But let me push back for a moment. I think it was Chris Brewer that I first heard mention this, but it's definitely a point that I can't say Chris still feels this way, but a very reasonable point of view is, look, regging on time gets you more time banks, and not burning time banks earlier allows you to save them. So it's not simply being manipulative to burn your time banks for some level of stalling later. You were intelligent with your usage earlier, where other people maybe had to spend them, and now you get rewarded in some sense. I don't like it, but it seems very logical and reasonable to me that there should be some level of reward for not burning time banks, and not just, hey, later on you might use them. There's something there.
With every sport uses the clock as a tool, and he really took such a soft point. That was a point guard in basketball. That was such a soft point. We do use the shot clock as a tool, which makes sense, but up until a point. And we're using Chris just as a standard example, which is fair what he's saying to a degree, but there should be this bigger rule, but like bigger rule just above our heads, which still, it needs to be fun. the experience still needs to be fun, especially for the players, the recreationals, the fun players. So if you're just there burning 8-time banks, either if you're watching on a stream or if the players at the table, and I'm sure you have this experience with Triton's always trying to get better. Most of the time they got it right, but once in a while you have all those little pay jumps that you go hand for hand, and the recreationals go. I always get annoyed too. They go like, "What's going on? Why can't we play? The bubble is burst. Why are we waiting? Why is this time bank?" And for me, I'm a rhythm guy. I usually play better with rhythm. I was always like that in basketball, and I have all this energy to.
No, can't someone like Martin try to stop your rhythm?
A little bit, he can, but if the rule says that you can only use time banks to think, or just use time on a strategical matter, on if you actually need to think, not to just manipulate the game. If you have 10-3-0, then there's the tournament director discretion. It's always the rule number one. Like, they can just decide above everything else. So if they're there, if the event, let's just say World Series, Triton, EPT, whatever that might be, decides that in their tournaments, time banks should be used just as a way to think a strategic decision, not a way to just stall big blinds. Or it's easy to word this. ChatGPT will certainly help Luca if he wants to. It just becomes unethical, and if it's unethical, most people won't do it. I believe you get rid of all the stalling. I can't, for example, a guy that uses a stalling as a strategic device, because a strategic option, a strategic weapon, because he believes it's within the rules. If it's all of a sudden it's stated that it's unethical, I believe most of our guys, most of the crew that we play against, will not do it. People don't want to be seen as unethical, and that would solve part of the problem.
I agree. I think that would definitely help. I will say the holdouts, those that wouldn't, there would now be increased friction, and it could look like a similar situation to what happened with Kassouf and the TDs, which was just ugly.
And
like
then,
none of us, regardless of how you feel about it.
Then TD just draw the line somewhere, and then now we know.
Yeah,
and now we know where the line is. And
let me back up
where the line was with the William. It was harsh, but we found out. Like, there's like Jack.
Did we though? It's an N of one. I mean, we got one example. I'm not sure that, that calcifies how all future tournament directors are going to handle it.
Sure, but there's a precedent. Like, there was a clear message. There was like, you cannot annoy everybody at the table and be welcome in this event. It's clear.
Yeah,
you cannot annoy people.
I want to push back a couple things. There were a couple things you said, like where the line is, and I think that's subjective, but you also said this is fun or this is not fun. And again, there's a subjectivity to what is fun. Don't get me wrong. Sure. Like, you and I and most of the people we're friendly with are going to have a pretty similar feeling about this, but it is difficult to write rules, with subjective ideas in mind. What is a decision? You're going to run up against it at some point where someone's just like, look, I have opened 10-7-0 from the hijack before. Like, it's not impossible. Like, give me a moment to consider it. Or I take 12 seconds now in every decision because I'm trying to balance my opening tells. It's not that I was thinking. I just have to protect myself so that when I have aces, I don't, blah, blah, blah. But let me pull on a different thread, which is, and I think this happens in all areas of poker. Let me go with the metaphor of two guys at a bar go up to a woman separately. One of them gets the, oh my God, he was such a creeper. And the other one gets a drink and they end up going on dates. And that maybe said the exact same thing, but the filter is, how did this guy look? Or maybe how did he say it? Does he have the good social skills, or probably most important, was he good looking? And when it comes to Kabrhel and Kassouf, are they funny? Is a big part of all of this is like every time Martin actually makes you laugh, it's like he buys another 5 minutes of being a total shithead, and when there's a drought in being funny or clever, and obviously funny is subjective, but there is that underbelly, playing out, and I don't think we're ever going to get rid of it. It's just is kind of a cost benefit that we all think of. Like, we all have friends or people we associate with, like, he's kind of an asshole, but he's pretty funny, and that does seem to factor in. I don't imagine there's ever going to be a rule that takes in like that there's some funny Geiger counter that like, you know, keeps track of like how funny was he relative to the amount of toxicity he spewed.
But that's the same thing in real life. Like there's a lot of subjectivity and a lot of laws. So you just keep setting boundaries and precedents, and previous decisions will help judges on future cases. And that's kind of how it is. Like there's always subjectivity when you're in a court of law to a certain extent. So, and the same with poker, sure, people can try. There's a few guys that will try to push the line here and there, but at least you set some boundaries. Like past this point, it's unacceptable, buddy. Like using, you can take people out of comfort zone.
Where are the boundaries, though? You know,
we just found out. The tournament director will let you know. And also, if everybody else is not using 3 minutes per decision, then you should just probably follow what everybody else is kind of using. I think but it might have been ODB Baker once when I was just starting ODB, and I used to be slow. Not anymore. I kind of went out right, I believe so. But I used to be quite slow playing. But I was just trying to get it right. I wasn't trying to be an asshole. I was just a little, you know, I was just coming from online. I had a lot of things to process. I really wanted to do well. So I would just take extra time, and then people would just be a little aggressive to me, and I'm just thinking, I'm sorry. And then after a break, I'm fairly certain it was LDB. He just pulls me to the side and understands. I understand you're thinking. I know that these guys sometimes snap, and you know it's impossible. The limit. It's impossible that they get a bluff or whatever. But just try to be using around the same time as the table uses. I was like, that's a good metric. If table is playing in 5 seconds, it's surely you don't have to play in 5. You can short play in 10, 15, even 20. 5, 10 seconds, it's not that big of a difference. But if you're taking 45 to a minute and a half every time, where everybody else is going 5, 10, buddy, you know, check yourself. So that's something that it's reasonable to understand that there's this certain dynamic, group dynamic where, I mean, I would love to tease a little bit more and trash talk a little bit more. It's part of basketball, but in poker, it's not acceptable. It's not acceptable to make somebody feel bad so you can play well. So it's not, in basketball, it is acceptable. Oh, people go, you know, there's a lot of histories. Check Gary Payton. I mean, he will talk. Larry Bird will talk. Like Michael Jordan surely will talk. So it was just acceptable. It's just part of the culture. In poker, you can sometimes, I mean, no. Let's see Ponakov. I say, which bullet are you in? I'm fucking with him. I know him. I'm friends with him. He's going to have a laugh. They're going to, you know, Alex or Kulev is going to get back at me. And it's all inside this playful frame. I will not try to actually just make you feel bad just to annoy you so you can play worse. It's just not something that we do. So it's not something that your culture do, you usually don't do it. It's just, you know, it's just part of the unwritten rules.
Again, I think there's a good spot to separate between taking excessive time and the speech play. Because once you take excessive time, first, basically every sport has delay of game penalties in place to mitigate that situation. And then that's not, so we need something like that in poker. That seems totally reasonable to me. But then when it comes to like where you draw the line on speech play, getting an edge, you know, these days, I would imagine people dropping racial slurs, for example, in sports games is going to get them teed up, you know, and stuff like that. But I'm sure that wasn't the case in the 60s and 70s, which is pretty ugly. And the line changes. So how about to a point guard? You know, I have been a Hornets fan my whole life, and then Pelicans when they moved there, and I loved Chris Paul. Chris Paul was kind of ahead of the curve on something that I think you would have heard in the 50s and 60s, like, what a fucking asshole. This is just a stupid move. He would try to find people who are off balance and charge into them to get a foul. It would be a blocking foul. And he was really good at doing this. And it's just an obnoxious way to accrue fouls or whatnot. Became something that was, and Chris Paul was known for a lot of these kind of obnoxious tactics. He was also a shit talker. And I've heard he's just not very friendly to his opponents or whatnot. I don't think he's an incredibly well-liked guy. But most of us would call him crafty and say like, wow, you can see like that's, you know, going to be plus minus 1.5 points for his team, what he's doing here. And those lines, they do change.
But there's a big difference between playing a sport where everybody's professional, they're the best in the world, they're very well paid, and they're paid to be there, and to play poker where it's a social game and the game grows around people who are recreational, they're on there to have fun. That's the big difference. And I think I managed to,
But if-
most of us managed, even most of us, a lot of us came from very high level, some of us came from high level sports, even in high school at least, some college, and throughout the years, you see a lot of guys that played somewhat professional, some sport or the other, and everybody managed to understood this is not just a competition. This is the competition with a certain level of social acceptance rules. Like, it needs to be fun. It needs to be pleasant to a certain degree. And so you can't be just a dick, because it's not acceptable. You need to be, have a certain behavior that the people still want to play. So and this is how most of the poker is played around the whole world, even around kitchen tables. No one wants to play with the dick. It's just not fun. So there needs to be this certain level of respect.
So JP, Juan Pardo, pointed to you as someone who he thinks has a lot of emotional intelligence, kind of a high EQ, and a person he feels is really good at picking up the vibe. And I was curious if you could talk some about what a person like that is doing on and off the table that is helping your poker game. What are the things that someone like that picks up on that someone with, let's say, a low EQ might be missing?
Just listen to your podcast, and the guys just speak a little bit too much. So I pick around that. So I just try to understand it's a decision-based game, and people base their decisions on their previous experience and who they are and what drives them and what are their baselines for life, their values, their core values, and all that. If you can just get to know the guy, and then it's become fairly easier to predict some of their decisions, and then it just becomes a little bit easier to just play against them. I always had a harder time to play against people until I know them. After I know them, it just becomes a little easier, because we're all just humans, and we're all just base our decisions on who we are. So if you can just understand who they are, sure, there's some decisions that are going to happen naturally. That's how they're going to be. And a lot of us will have a good way to just try not to be predictable. But like, for example, you are interested in a million things, and you take risks, and your poker clearly mirrors that. That's who you are. Sure, I don't know how you're going to play every single street, but there's a good amount of decisions where I think you will be at least willing to do. Go back to the polarized opinions. You're willing to do that some other people's just not.
Mm-hmm.
They're just not. They will never do that. It's not in them. So there's never going to be that out of line. I'm not going to say word from other guys. They're just too structured to be there. I think that's one of the reasons I think Nick is a little bit harder piece for me to figure, because he just doesn't. I know him a little bit. I know he is extreme competitive. It's just an overperformer, but you never really know which way he's trying to overperform, or it becomes hard to where other people are just easier to understand. Doesn't mean that easier to play against. They're just easier to understand, and then that usually leads to better decision making against them. Yeah. So a person, I would just be listening to what they say and what they give, and I think most people are a bit too naive that they don't understand that everything they can say can and will be used against them. Like my podcast here, can and will be used against me for sure.
Embedded in what you said, to my ears, is that people's preferences are creeping in a lot of areas where maybe they're not deciding I'm going to open 10-9-0 under the gun because I want to win this tournament, but they are maybe skipping a bluff for whatever emotional reasons, or they are adding a bluff for whatever reasons, and that is somewhat detectable in their person and in conversations that sometimes have nothing to do with poker. So embedded in that, to me, is that there's not really as much randomizing going on as some players would claim. Is that fair? Are you feeling as if certain players...
People are full of shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, people are full of shit. Yeah, they're randomizing, then they re-randomize, and then they re-randomize until they get the decision they actually want to make. A lot of people are like that. Of course, there are a lot of decisions that are not emotionally based, and you can't take nothing from those. but there are others that are, and you can take information from those. And anything can and will be used against you. It's just if you just, I'm trying not to say which way unless you try to, you actually make a really good job of just not being extremely confident and extremely level-headed and extremely tranquil, that you don't really care of a lot of these factors. If you're an upswing, downswing, if you want to look cool, whatever. If whatever impacts someone's decision, unless you manage to have a good way of just not having a lot of those pools, you were gonna know. You're just gonna know, and it won't be like it's. Yeah, people randomize, but some guys never randomize high, some guys never randomize low, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just not how it works. Like
Yeah.
some people do actually are somewhat, but most aren't. It's just some bullshit that people say.
Mm-hmm. When good new players reach high stakes live, in my head, there's kind of these steps that emerge. One is they come from a very solver-based background. It's very rare to see someone who's not well studied that is young and emerges on the scene today. I mean, really at any age, if you're actually good, you're going to have this very solver background. But then with that usually comes a lack of paying attention to live tells and to vibe, and they're going to just be behind on what you just kind of explained, knowing how different people approach situations. And then maybe half of them stay kind of stuck in that zone where they're just really far behind on live stuff. And then the other half usually overcorrects pretty quickly, where they start getting really into live tells for a moment and they're really susceptible to tricks. They just think everyone's a fucking idiot and they think everything they see is honest, and they go for every reverse tell. And when it doesn't work out, say, oh, bad read. And whenever something works, they're like, yeah, it was a live tell, I had it and whatnot. So I'm kind of talking about how you find that channel in the middle. How do you are a young guy coming up today, you're behind on this experience, that it's kind of a wisdom more than a knowledge thing. How do you engage with this vibe stuff to some degree without getting completely carried away?
Why would I tell them?
Fuck them. Moving on.
Why? It's true. It's a competition-based game. Why would I tell them?
You're right. I'm with you.
It is super important, but most people fuck
Why
up.
not tell them a false answer right now?
I think that's a bit, that's outside of my values. I've came across a couple of tweets that I would like to do once in a while, but it's okay.
Yeah.
And especially sometimes the leaders of opinion, of public opinion, whoever they might be, strategic, whoever people just follow on social media, they fuck up pretty bad. Mm-hmm. So, and I've seen sometimes the little bit players in them just trying to correct them. It's just what it is. What it is. Like the goes left and right and left and right. Some people are just out of they're wrong. They're just wrong. Or at least they're just too strict to what they believe, and yeah. It's maybe I'm wrong too in some things, but I'll try to. Part of the edge is about that. It's about part of the edge. How do I say this? How to download information and generate an output. That's it. So that's very hard. It's something I'm still trying to master. If I were to master, I would have told you, but I don't know yet. So I'll keep it to the little that I know. I'll keep it to myself. Yeah.
I know the shit talk is not directed at GTO Lab or any of our coaches, because we all have terrible social media presence, so it can't be us.
No. It's just something. No, it's just it's just not exactly one person, but it just becomes this thing is what you're supposed to do, or you should behave this way, or that, or left and right. And some of them are just, you see something, you say, why are these kids all doing this? And then you just find a way, you find the answer because X, Y, and Z is doing it or whatever. And then you go like, this is so fucking wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's okay. Why would you, it's still a competition based game. So every edge that you can get, at least every edge that you should that you have the ability to not give away, why would you? Why would I correct if you're doing whatever? You're just shooting. Let's just say you're shooting a basketball, and most people are just shooting like this instead of going like this.
Yeah,
just let them. Like this, I'm not their coach. It's just, why would I just? I'm gonna get shot at better. I don't want to get shot at better.
In that spirit, we're going to say you have an hour to think about a hand, okay? You are on the river and you're facing a big bet. I'll try and set the scene for you a little bit. It's 60% of the remaining field cashes in the opening 25K in Jeju, okay? A reg that you don't know, we'll just say an American younger guy has placed a bet on the river. You have a fairly average bluff catcher. You're trying to decide whether or not to catch. And I'm going to give you 3 questions that person would have to answer truthfully. They've already put their money in. But obviously you can't ask, are you bluffing? You can't ask, do you have the 4 of spades in your hand? None of this stuff. But on the other extreme, you're not going to ask, like, do you like ice cream? So I'll tell you, if a question hits too hard, like too close to home, I'll say, you got to back off. You got to be a little further from the answer. Take your time and brainstorm 3 questions you might ask that might not be obvious that you think would help you in your determination.
Do you care what people think about you?
Well, I mean, everyone cares what they're thought of. So like 1 to 10, 1 to 10, where do you?
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it very? Yeah, he has to answer truthfully, right?
Yeah.
Is it very important what this table thinks of how you played? That's a big one. Yep. Is GTO always right? That's another one.
Does anyone think GTO is always right?
I don't know. Do you always randomize your decision? But I know this answer. This one doesn't matter. Nobody always randomizes their decisions.
How about this one?
That's a stupid question.
Tell me if this one means something to you or not much. How much of your own action do you have on this bullet? No.
I don't think that's that. People are usually properly spread at this time. I don't feel that too much on the 60% left. Maybe if you give me final table, what's the percentage of your roll? What about this first place matters or something? What
about this one?
That would 60% left of it's just like.
How about this? Who buys your action?
That's interesting. Oh, who buys your action is who's your favorite player that you speak poker with? That's huge because he's gonna try to emulate that.
Yeah. Who do you think the best player in the world is?
That would be interesting, but that usually hits close to home, so some bias in there. That's always very close to home. People are. There's always this film. There's always this bias. Whenever narrative gets formed, it's very hard to deconstruct it. It's very hard. Either it's politics, poker, basketball, or whatever that might be. So if all of a sudden, when you say who's the best player in the world, people just go back to the questions they're used to hearing. Like the replies, it just becomes very frequent, and to change the narrative is very hard once it's going. If it just becomes narrative that this party is whatever plus this, it helps this part of society. If that starts to be believed, even though if policies go the other way or if there's a shift, it takes a long time for public opinion, all of them, to just shift. Because most of our opinions are based on what we heard. It's not exactly based on what we read and learned and discussed, and we don't have formed very good in-depth opinions about a lot of things. We just don't have the time. So we just based a lot of our opinions from what we heard people saying or from what people that we believe are knowledgeable about the subject said. And we just said the same thing. We just repeat it. So we repeat more opinions than we form opinions. And then when it matters to one of those things, this is why poker is so beautiful. Whenever it's become, who's the best online player? Who's the best? We just repeat things. And once you speak with guys who are really high level, you see that actually the answers are very different than what public opinion believes. Let's bring it back to all super high rollers are robots. No, they're not. No, they're not. They're not. Seth's not a robot. Seth is very athletic. outgoing guy.
Robots
Jared
can be
Jaffe
athletic.
is not a robot.
Robots
What?
can be athletic.
Robert's gonna be athletic, but you don't see him as this. You usually don't see sports guys, athletic guys as robots. That's why I went. Usually, the athletic guy is the outgoing guy most of the time. That's kind of overlaps a little bit, please. And if you go through the list and you know them, they're not that. They're not. Some of them are on the shy side, sure. I can see them, but it's just shy. It's not that they're robots. And I see one that is very unfair, that Stevie gets hit with that a lot. Stevie, he's just overly fucking focused and is a bit of an introvert. He spoke about it tremendously. But if you speak with him, the guy is one of the most knowledgeable guys about hip hop that I've known. Like he knows his rap. Like it is not something you expect Stevie to know his rap. No. So there's this constructed narratives, and people just keep falling into them that just makes them somewhat, and this is something that is a little bit true, that becomes a little bit predictive on certain types of plays, because if you care what people think about you and you think that what cool or what it's supposed to do, it's this type of play, you just kind of follow this behavior, and sometimes it's not the right behavior, or sometimes it is, but it just becomes more predictable. So that's one of those that if you just can't understand if the kid or this young American is one of those, it becomes a little bit more easy to kind of understand what he's going to do with this or that combo.
Introducing the GTO Lab ICM Trainer. Train all positions at once. The new and better way of learning poker tournaments. Master all stages of the tournament. Pre-bubble, bubble, in the money, 2 and 3 tables left, and the final table. Learn how to crush tournaments from our coaches and get the most out of the trainer. We have the biggest ICM library ever, with over 14,000 solutions created by Nick Petrangelo and Daniel Dvoris. Join GTO Lab today and stay ahead of the curve.
I have a question without an answer here. Bringing it back to the first part of what you were saying was about people kind of aggregate their opinions rather than form their own. They just repeat, which I would argue serves a purpose, that there's too many things to form your own opinion about, that you have to have smart people to aggregate.
It wasn't a criticism. It was... It's smart. Sure. It's our brain just we don't just have the time and the brain CPU to just do that. It's just impossible. So we just do that as a energy saver kind of mechanism.
So you know that the past 3 summers I've polled about 20 high rollers to ask them who they think are essentially the top 7 players in the world. Would you expect that from year 1 to year 3 those have not shifted as much as they probably should? Or
I don't trust many people to have a very focused opinion about everybody else. I don't trust many people to have a not biased opinion about their friends. I don't trust many people to have an open mind about what good actually is. So I wouldn't trust many people's judgment on that.
But would you expect them to change too quickly or not change enough, regardless of how?
Not change enough.
Okay, so that is consistent.
Not change enough, not play.
Yep.
Yes, not pay enough attention, and just hit too close to home. Just hit too close to what they believe is the right way to play, or the right style, or the right. And sometimes just need to, or not be biased by results. It's hard too. So it's you have to be very, very level-headed to just come up with the open mind to answer that question actually, and just to pay attention. People are usually with their head up their ass. They're not watching and just giving credit and just I shit you pretty bad on the last polarized opinion, but I had a really good argument on the other way. If I was
tell me why the king queen is so good. I'll throw it back up.
No. I'm gonna leave on a high note.
I was so proud of that hand. I knew no one would like it, but Henrik actually came up to me.
I did not like it because you never actually told me why you did it. You said you would, but then you never.
I'll tell you off air.
That's why I don't know.
Yeah, I'll tell you off air.
If this is the moment for defend yourself, I'll after.
Hecklin said to me, he goes, "That hand belongs in a fucking gallery," or something like that.
Hecklin is one of those that's if you see him on a stream and if it's actually on a it's kind of similar vibe as Nick.
Yeah.
If it's not on a good mood, or if he's just a bit hangover, which sometimes he is, you will have one opinion, but then you hear him speak, and he's just so fucking
funny.
And remember, not his first language.
Yeah.
It's so funny. So if you see, oh, they have no who doesn't have that personality?
Heckling,
Like,
on
what
top
are you
of being
talking about?
funny,
It's just-
like, you know, the phrase they're always throwing around is good morale, or what high morale. Sorry. He is the epitome of high morale. I mean, it's almost, I feel bad if he's ever not in a good mood. It's got to be a burden, but like, you just expect Hecklin to cheer you up. Just seeing him, like, yeah, I always enjoy, even a very brief interaction with him is fantastic.
That's one of those we need to deconstruct. No, guys are not that boring. We just not there. I think also it happened for a long time. There was a lot of money in sponsorships. So if you just put yourself out there and you are a bit clowny, or if you're just more funnier, and especially the background of the initial TV shows were around cash games. So if you were funny, you would get the sponsorships. And if you were funny and out there and gambly, whatever, you would get invited to more cash games. So there was just basically advertising.
This two different Nazas, the guy that we saw in Polarized Opinion and the guy that most people are seeing at 150K final table at Triton. Is there any sort of bridge that ought to be built? Is there any way to get more personality? Should we be trying to do that at final tables at Triton? Or does the audience that doesn't care for that just need to, okay, they're not going to tune in and that's that. We're not trying to grow the game in that sense. You know, I've heard Jungle Man, this is kind of one of his big talking points, is like, come on, guys, like, dress in costumes, make jokes, we can play high level poker and be loose. How do you feel about that kind of thing?
If that's who you are, I'm not going to be something that I'll not want to be. If I just sit down on those tournaments, I have a clear goal, I have a clear objective, and I'm going through all those objectives, and I'm trying to make them happen. I will try to make them happen as hard as I can. I'm not. My goal is not to entertain the audience. If you come invite me for a Winamax cash game, yeah, I'll be a little bit more of it. But it's just something that it has to be natural. Either, and most of us, I would say, a good part of the Super High Roller are actually funny guys. They're just, and some of them are not speaking their first language either, so it makes it a little bit harder. But we have a goal. The goal is to compete. The goal is to try to win on a very tough field. So there's not a lot of rooms for being a bit of a circus clown if you're not that. If you're that type of personality, go ahead. But do like looking funny for them. I think most of us, at least our generation, it's not really they don't really care how they come out and if they come out funny or not. They're just trying to compete, and that's how the game is at this point. At least those type of tournaments.
I agree. What I'm really asking is, we don't have incentive to entertain at a table. We're playing for enough money. It's going to be very tough to come up with an incentive structure, but should they consider the tournaments at their final tables or at their stream tables? Should they consider incentivizing us to be more entertaining? I mean, I don't know exactly what that would look like, but do you think it's a road worth traveling down if you are the people in charge of stream tables, to make it so that those people who are not, let's say, promoting training products as I am, or having a channel like Jungle, will actually have reason to be a little more social at these tables? I don't feel like it would take that much in the non-final tables to incentivize people properly.
But the non-final tables, the outer tables, they're funny. I don't know where. I also need to debunk this idea that every single high roller, super high roller, is boring and is a robot. You have not been playing these tournaments. I have laughed my ass off so often on those tables.
Same.
Especially early games. It is a friendly environment. It is funny. People are still competing to the best of their abilities, but it's a funny environment. It is. It is. People are. I'm having fun. I do. How many? If you play Triton day one, how many times do you think you're gonna laugh on average? A lot.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
It's not.
I agree with you.
But then when you play the final table, there's 3 million up there. There's 3 million up there. Then it's time to be serious, and that's just life. I don't see Michael smiling on game 7. You know, there's no jokes being cracked. It's just a different time, and there's a time and moment for everything. I think people also appreciate that this is big boys poker. This is not gated community poker. We're playing for money. So people are just going to go out for it. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, so just, it's not, I also don't see it, at least not, and I think most of us agree. There's a time and place to be a clown. Final table of 100K, that's not the place. Sorry, buddy. This is not where we're going. This is not time for cracking jokes. This is money, real money time. So it is what it is.
All right. It's time to get to know the guest. I heard a quote recently. I don't know who it was from. It was probably a comedian, but he said, podcasts were invented so two straight men could go on a date. And in the spirit of that, we're going to interview Joao here, get to know the guest. This is a play along at home game, multiple choice. I have the answers to these questions. I'm going to ask a question and present a few choices, which Joao will help me come up with some good false choices here. And you guess and find out the answer. Feel free to do your best live reads and see if you can get anything off Joao's face while I read the question and answers. From age 16 to 22, Joao was a professional basketball player, handball player, soccer or football player, tennis player. A, basketball, B, handball, C, soccer, D, tennis. Joao, the correct answer is?
Basketball. I want to overplay my hands because for American viewers, professional is NBA level. So our league was kind of NCAA 1 level. So that was kind of where I was at. Yeah.
It's pretty damn good.
But I'd never grow a fucking inch after 16.
That's not very good for basketball.
35.
Joao's favorite genre of music. A, hip-hop. B, jazz. C, house. D, classic rock. And the correct answer is?
Mild. No, I'm kidding. It's hip-hop. Yeah, I was a hip-hop head. We had a band when I was young. Yesterday was my birthday. I just went to watch Kendrick Lamar. That's my favorite artist. Yeah, the whole thing. J. Cole, Nas. Those are my guys, yeah.
Joao's major in school. A, biology. B, business. C, architecture. D, pre-law. And the correct answer is?
Almost cracked for architecture. It was B, business, but I was a pretty B level student. I was pretty bad. And I didn't finish the degree like most of us poker players. And yeah, so I started when I was playing basketball. So I would just go, it was pretty hard to we don't have the good programs like they have in US, where it's kind of easy for the student athletes. Here, you don't get any frisbees. You have to still make it, even though you're gonna miss most classes because you have twice a day. I was practicing twice a day, and I was still trying to make to the class, and it's not even on the same campus because it's so I did pretty bad. Then I quit kind of basketball to finish college, and I was there for 6 months, and then I quit college to go to poker. So let's just say I wasn't exactly a model student.
Joao's toughest opponent in poker, and I have excluded his close friends Juan Pardo and Adrian Mateos from contention in this question. A, Christoph Vogelsang. B, Fedor Holtz. C, Alex Ponikovs. D, Nick Petrangelo. And the answer is?
They all probably make top 10, to be honest. It's Nicky P. Yeah, Nicky P. He schooled me once with the reverse live read. I was like, I'm not messing with this. It's a bad man. I'm not messing with this guy again. He's very crafty, and it's one of those guys. I'm just gonna. He's just very good with the technical part, but he's also come from another era of poker where talent was a thing, and it's still experience with life dealt, and it's just a very smart guy all around. And I'm just happy I only face him and some live events. I don't have to face him online. Nicky P is one of the greats.
Cue the tournament savagery ad.
Tournament Savagery is 25 hours of structured tournament strategy by Nick Petrangelo and Daniel Dvoris. This course covers pre-bubble, bubble, in the money, and the final table broken down like never before. We also cover post-flop ICM, blind versus blind, and much more. Buy now for $9.99 only at gtolab.com.
Yeah, one of the things that's always been very funny for me is since I've been friends with Nick so long, and we know each other's families and are friends from growing up and all of this, is we have a very non-poker view of each other. And so one of the things, first, basically everyone I come across thinks Nick is like one of the funniest people they've ever met, but he's also just one of the best socially and social and emotional intelligence. He's very tuned in, but the funny part is because he's done these courses, everyone thinks him as super technical. Everyone thinks of Nicky P as the guy who like can't get away from the solver, and it's just not him at all. Once you play with him a little bit, you know that, but from afar, it's he's got such an attention to getting everything right when he does a course or whatever, that public perception of Nick and people who know Nick, who is a guy who has trouble keeping his clothes on when he has 2 drinks, is like very, very far apart.
It is true. It also, it comes across as a bit cranky. Not cranky, like how do you say? When you're not in a good mood?
Yeah, cranky works.
So it comes across when you play with him as being cranky, but the more you play with him, you kind of actually realize he's actually cranky. So he is quite cranky.
He's getting crankier with traveling. He really, really doesn't like the jet lag. It's been hitting him. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, Nick's there. With Nick, you have to just wait a bit and see if today is the day you talk to him. And if it's not, don't.
He's pretty clear with the headphone signals. He's one of those guys where, like, if you see the over-ear headphones, he's telling you, not today, guys. Yeah.
Today I'm not feeling you. And that's fine. That's okay.
If poker disappeared tomorrow, Joao would A, pursue a degree in psychology in pursuit of being a therapist. B, start an NGO with a community focus. C, crypto or stock trading. D, travel the world with his wife, doing a vlog with a focus on the best restaurants in the world. And the answer is...
Not D. You went up. You oversold that one. It would be an NGO with my community. It's something I always wanted to do. And I believe every euro you win should be every dollar you win could be a dollar that you can share, or at least you can just make something out of it. Or if you have a good stage, make it a stage for good stuff, for good ideas, good vibes. And so that's something I would like to do. My community it's something that I'm passionate about. So something that hopefully I will do.
Something we have not gotten into in this podcast previously is mixed games, and we have a mixed game artist here. Joao can be found in the Poker Players Championship and all of the other big bracelet events during WSOP. So what is Joao's favorite mixed game? Is it A, the highly skilled world of Raz? Is it B, the enchanting and exciting world of Limit Hold'em? Is it C, 08? Or is it D, Stud 8? And the correct answer is?
Actually, the incorrect answer is Limit Hold'em, because there's not a lot of people's favorite game. And right now, my favorite one is 08. Not because I'm especially good at it, but it's it's a game that I think in the last World Series, I final table at 10K, and I had such a blast during those 3.5 days, I would say, to just learn. And I just broke some of those hurdles. You know, when you're just learning a game and all of a sudden you go like, oh, So I had a lot of those moments, and it made me really appreciate a weight, especially when you see it play on really high levels. You go, oh, there's a lot to this. So it's one game that I really like. But if you're a true mixed games player, like them all, Stud's nice. Stud 80 is really good. Badugi, Whole Hell, the king of Badugi, Scott Seaver. Badugi is also very nice. Single draw, it's lovely. Like
I liked
I
watching
just like
single draw.
poker, even Ras.
Yeah, I watched some of the single draws. So
Nick and Darren's heads up is good.
Yeah, Chad is one of my best friends, so I was watching a bunch of that final table, and Blez's commentary was fantastic for someone who, I'm a poker player, but I'm not a deuce to 7 player. He was tremendous. I mean, he's got so much personality, so even if he's spewing nonsense, he's going to be entertaining, but he was very, very, he was illuminating the game for someone who knows nothing about it. It was one of the most entertaining poker viewing experiences I had that was not with the ability to fast forward, because I was watching some live.
This is something I have to tell you. Only the great players can make this fold. Edge Matez is a great player. He always gives you like this. It's dramatic. I don't think Mizrachi can make this fold. I don't know. I don't think so.
I would love to see Shulman just bet like 400,000 right now. Look at this. What did I say?
He comes with exactly what the Blez said.
What do you see as the tightest bottlenecks today to becoming an elite high stakes tournament player?
Breaking through mid-high stakes online or mid-high stakes live to really high stakes online and really high stakes live to super high roller. That's a big bottleneck. I see a lot of people just can't get through that hurdle, and I had students, friends, that I just see that you're going to be a really good player at this stakes, which is the second to highest stakes there is, but at the highest stakes, it's just not going to work.
What stops them?
There's a lot.
Is it technical skills, emotional intelligence, connections?
Yeah, that's one of the, something stops them.
Okay. I'll throw out a bit of a theory of mine. I actually recorded the second Polarized Opinions with Nick and Brian Kim 2 nights ago. And one of the questions was an affirmative or negative about this proposition. Your social circle and who you talk poker with is the most important thing in climbing from mid stakes to high stakes. How do you feel about that?
False. But it's probably thing number 2. Number 1 is just a combination of talent and work ethic. Doesn't have to be the traditional work ethic of just studying 15 hours a day. Mm-hmm. Even just the work ethic of just sitting your ass down and playing a lot. Mm-hmm. And that with the talent, however you manage to learn. So I think that's number 1, because if you don't have that, you have really cool friends, it's not going to work. But then having really good friends helps. Really.
All right, let me push back. Let me do the devil's advocate here, because I came up with that proposition with it being, my feeling is that it is actually sneaky the highest thing. Here's my pitch. The talents, like how much talent you need to reach super high stakes, I don't think is really high, certainly not compared to sports. I don't think that there's much of a genetic component. I think that you can have a pretty average intelligence, maybe a little above average is necessary. For whatever intelligence means, that's another conversation. And hard work, yeah, again, nothing near what sports need necessarily. I think there are a lot of people in the world doing this level of work, some of it a lot more monotonous, some of it a lot more high level when you talk about whatever, use rocket scientists, the cliche example. But I don't think either of those is very high. It is a combination of the two that you need. You can be an extremely high worker who's got maybe 105 IQ, or maybe you could be 130 IQ with an average work ethic, and I think make it if you're surrounded by the right people and have other positives, such as a budget, to hire a coach, to, let me pivot then to still pull something out of this conversation without giving that one that's super important, a more kind of social conversation. There's a lot of talk about like toxic people and like, hey, you need to, and I think that exists in poker too, where you're going to have people who are helpful in your journey at a certain point, but now they become anchors because they're not working on becoming much better players. And there tends to be a moral judgment there sometimes too, like especially when you use the word toxic, but it's like, I don't know, this guy started a family, like it's fine. He's just not going to be able to devote the same amount of time as you to poker. And whereas I will say sometimes that there ends up being this like kind of moral judgment as if it's like a pure thing to be working on your craft, where like there are other things you can do with your time that are quite noble. But aside from that, there is this, the pendulum can swing too far in the other direction, where this growth mindset can become kind of a cult. I'm sure you've seen it. I think we get around it sometimes in high stakes poker, where something that started out really good, bettering yourself as a person, becomes like, now anyone who eats Doritos in front of me, get the fuck out of here. Like, you know, you smoke weed, I can't spend time with you, blah, blah, blah. And kind of curious about how your journey has been in terms of finding the right people. Sometimes I'm sure you've had to leave study partners behind and, you know, gravitate towards higher level thinkers. Has there been any of that where you're trying to tread carefully and maintain friendships, but also continue your career in the direction that you want it to go?
I am one of those that's part of the cult, but the part of the cult of my cult is I'm just trying to do my best. If I'm just trying to do my best, I'm trying to do my best as a friend, as a husband, as a peer, as a
Won't they
son,
conflict sometimes,
brother,
being the
whatever.
best poker player and being the best husband?
Of course.
So how do you kind of
course,
manage
yeah,
a situation like that?
every single thing that takes time away from you will subtract somewhere else. So if you're just playing a tournament, you're not calling mom, you're not hanging out with friends, you're not playing with nieces, it is what it is. Of course, you have to try to balance it off, and there's only one right way to do it. It is yours, the one that you believe, the one that you feel like doing it. It's if you want to be a great pickleball player, it will take away time from something else. I would like to be on Jason Kuhn shape, but sometimes I just cannot manage. Well, I can't be on Jason Kuhn shape, let's be honest. But it just takes a little bit too much time of all the other stuff I want to do. And sometimes I'm going to be in reasonable shape. Actually, I'm on the process of just actually getting back to 10 years later. I'm mentally ready to go back to pretty good shape after basketball, because you get so hammered and working twice a day. Sometimes you just want to, just ease off a little bit. But now I'm very, very confident and focus on just getting in not to basketball shape, but close to what I used to be. But it was just a moment. It was for a period of time. That's not where I was. And for a period of time, I wasn't here. And so if that some guy wants to smoke a joint, buddy, go ahead. Like, it's your life. We all should make plans about our time, which will obviously impact plans in our life. With the number one plan, we should be always focused on number one plan. And number one plan is, I plan to die. And you should too, because you will. Trust me, you will. So if you plan to die, then it's very easy to plan ahead around whatever you want to do. Right now, I love poker, so I spend a lot of time playing poker. But sometimes if that changes in the future, I might do something else. I won't lie to myself. If I want to reach the top of the game, I'll have to dedicate a certain amount of time. I'll do a certain amount of sacrifices that will subtract from something else. So I just plan about that. But there's no right way or wrong. There's no right or wrong when your ultimate plan is how you plan to live your life because you're playing. So there's just something that's what I feel is like people are too square. This is how you do it. You wake up, you go to school, you go to Ivy League, you do blah, 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 blah. Or you do poker, you wake up, you go GTO Wizard, then you go GTO Lab, obviously, and then you go this. There's no right way or wrong to do life. Life, there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's your life. If you want to smoke the pipe and go down that line, it's your way. Who am I? Who am I to judge how you do it? And there's also not one way to success either. There's multiple ways to success. See, the group of poker players are very different. Some were just lone wolves. I was a lone wolf for a long time. Not a lone wolf, but I had friends, but mostly. There are other people who were in groups. There are the other people who were study every day. There are people who were playing every day. there's a lot of ways to do it. And the people that say, let's go grinders, buy my course, this is how you do it, they're wrong. Because a lot of people didn't buy their course and they did it. It's a good way too. Courses are usually good. So that's the way that I'm conflicted. People are too close-minded about life and about decisions, about success. And that's what probably that's a lot of people.
Let me complicate things, because I overall, I agree. There's definitely not one way to be successful, and even viewing what success is very different, which of course will change how to be successful. But at the same time, even within yourself, I'll just give you myself as an example. I don't view myself as one entity. I think it's very fluid. I'm continuous with the person who existed 5 years ago, but even from right now to 4 hours ago to 4 hours from now, I will be feeling different things and I will have different goals. I mean, the most obvious thing is when you're hungry versus when you're not. You are a different person with different primary objectives. But in a greater sense, what I mean to say is, like, I don't know, some days I wake up at a Triton stop and I want to play tennis all day, and I get into the tournament very late. And other days, I mean, there was one day that I really didn't want to play, but Dan really wanted to play tennis and he had a big final table. And I was like, dude, if it's like 9 out of 10 for you, I'll do it, you know? And in that case, you know, this is not the ultimate noble sacrifice, just being a friend and saying, okay, you know, Dan's desire outweighs my lack of desire here. Let's go ahead and play some tennis. But the point being, what you want out of life, how much you want poker success, how much you want these other interests, how much you want to be a good partner to, you know, your wife, whatnot, is kind of a fluid thing. It's not like you'll ever not want to be a good poker player or not want to be a good husband, but how much you want those things change. And yet you have to have some level of stability, let's say for your wife as an example, that you can't wake up every week and have a completely different idea of how much time you're going to spend together and just kind of inform her of the new, you know, Joao. And so to that end, and obviously successful people, they're not reorganizing their priorities every day and every week. They're somewhat committed to some of these things. How do you manage this, allowing yourself to be a fluid individual whose needs and wants and goals change, but at the same time be tethered to something long enough to actually be successful?
I came from a family of sacrifices. My people sacrificed a lot, not just my family, but where I'm from. They're hardworking people, which is in the middle of the ocean, and you just have to fight the fucking ocean and the fucking mountains, the whole thing. So it's just kind of in me to just be understanding that life's about sacrifices. This is a game of sacrifice, life. So if you want to achieve some things, you have to sacrifice. If you want to achieve Y, you have to sacrifice X, period. Life's just not a game. It's just not. So if you want to be good, you need to sacrifice time. You need to sacrifice focus. Sometimes you need to sacrifice some mental stability. And sometimes you need to sacrifice X to be more close to your friends. Or sometimes you need this mental fortitude or focus. You need to sacrifice mental relaxation to be able to try to be your best at all parts of the day. Because if you want to be with your buddies in a dinner and just be fully commit there, then you need to sacrifice that mental relaxation. You could just be there, laid back, or you could just be engaging in conversation. So this is just what life is. And I think I have a good level of high energy towards life. I want to enjoy life. I want to speak with people. I want to engage. And that makes me a little bit of an edge because I have this energy. But then I just understanding that this is how it's going to be. And you have to soak it up sometimes. Like the motivation, the first you set up a goal, then you set up a plan, and then you have to have some kind of discipline to follow through. Because if you don't just forget it. Don't lie to yourself. Don't feel like I'm going to be the best player in whatever. And then you don't want to do the job. That's not how it's going to work. If you want to be that fluid guy, you also need to have fluid objectives. If you want to have static, hard, like long-term, hard to achieve goals, let's just say be the best player in the world, you can't be very fluid with how you organize your day. It's not going to work. You're going to have to say fuck you to Dan sometimes. If you want also to be a very good friend and it doesn't really matter to your objective all that much, and you really like Dan, sure, you're going to play that tennis with Dan. This is a random example. I don't want to say fuck you, Dan, like you, Dan. Sorry. You know what I'm saying? So it's you can't be too fluid when you have long-term objectives because they don't match. You can just be a little bit fluid, but not too much.
I had to look it up because there's a psychological bias, I couldn't remember the name, that I want to push back with, which is plan continuation bias. Where let me read the definition: the unconscious cognitive bias to continue the original plan in spite of changing conditions.
No. When I say the original plan is when I say you need to stick to the plan, you need to stick to the plan to try to be the best poker player ever.
But maybe conditions have changed. Maybe for whatever reason.
It always change.
Yeah.
It change every day. The last night you study X, and then you play not so good. I say maybe I should study more. I should play less. I should maybe play tennis more because I actually feel better.
Well, let me give you an example. Let me take real life. So we have this bill in America that might make it essentially impossible for somebody to live in the States as an American and play high rollers for a living, right?
Okay.
And the one would say, oh, Jaffe and similar people, people in a similar boat should be making moves towards cash or coaching more or whatever it is. And then the flip side would say, hey, look, this is actually solvable, and that's probably going to get figured out soon too. Don't use this as an excuse to not study and keep working hard for live tournaments. You're probably going to be playing live tournaments. And there's these biases playing, havoc. One would be the playing continuation bias, just saying, this is what I do. I study, high stakes live poker and playing good. I'll keep watching streams. I don't do any of that. But the flip side would be, saying, look, it's time to alter the path. Like, you can see the barge coming, like, don't let it take you out, like, do something else.
Now it is, how much do you want to play tournaments? What's the goal? If the goal is to play tournaments and you still want to play, I guess you can move somewhere else and make the sacrifice. I haven't lived in my home country for 10 years. So I've done that. It was like, okay, Portugal is online market is closed. I'll go to Czech Republic. Then I go to whatever. Then I go to whatever. I think this is one of the questions. Is it one of the questions of guests?
Oh, I never asked it. No,
guest?
I didn't. Yeah.
So, okay. So I went to Czech Republic. Then I went to Holland. Then I'm UK. So I've lived in more than 20 houses. So if that's the goal, you go. And I'm not the only one. Most Spanish don't live in Spain. A lot of French don't live in France. There's something. Italians neither. There's something. The Germans live in Austria. So it's something we had to do. But it gets to the point that is it more important for you to live in the States and close to your family? And I know your kid most likely settled, and I would guess from the beautiful house that you seem to be in, that you have a good setting there. That maybe you don't want to do that. And so that will be more important because you, Jonathan, dad and husband and friend, is not willing to make all those sacrifices, and especially those sacrifices to your family, which is even harder. So you don't go there. So that's fine. But then you change and go somewhere else. But as long as that was the goal, as long as you don't change, because you gave me an example where the end goal actually just changes because it's so it conflicts so hard with so many other aspects of your life. But if it's just like you're in a downswing, or you're just not feeling like working because you're not doing well, and you decide to stop working for a couple of weeks just because, not because you need a break, just because you're just whatever. You're just a spoiled brat that can't take a couple of weeks of run bat. That is your main end goal, is it's going to be further and further away. Mm-hmm. But that's what I meant, like by keeping the plan of just keep working towards your plan. It's going to be different because how I worked in my game 10 years ago and how I work in my game now, it's so different. So that changes every day, and you make twists and about the plan and the schedule, and you change things. Which tables you play, whatever it is. If you get into mixed games or not. But what I'm saying is, like, if you're not willing to commit to something for a long run, even the way you commit to it changes, how are you going to achieve much? You won't. You might just, run good for a little bit, but that's going to...
Yeah.
We're going to find out eventually that you're bad.
You referenced the ultimate goal, and it makes me think, like, well, the ultimate goal, even for someone who wants to become a great poker player, is not to become a great poker player. it's to become a great poker player because, and then that answer has various answers. I want the public to adore me. I want these people to realize that I was actually talented at poker. I want fame in this way, whatever it is. I want, I think this is the best route to make money. But often I find that people kind of don't ask those questions until much later in life. And then there's this kind of confusion over, I got what I thought I wanted, but then I didn't realize why I wanted it. And now I realize it was never the thing I should have wanted anyway. But if you ask those questions too often, you can't actually achieve this thing. It's not like a person either does or does not want to become an elite poker player, for example, or whatever it is. They almost certainly do, but they might not know why. And then that may, peel back a next layer of the onion that asks some different questions. And what I'm kind of grappling with is any goal that a person has that takes some level of commitment, you need to be zoomed in and almost not ask big questions and be very focused to achieve these things. But then to be a more complete human being, you kind of want to zoom out and ask those big questions. In this process of narrowing and widening your focus, the aperture changes based on where you are in life and what you're looking for. Managing that,
I think you're just mirroring yourself, because for you, I know it's very important to ask the big questions. For somebody that's zoomed in, it's not.
But what I'm saying is, so take the guy in Silicon Valley who builds a big company. You see this pattern so often. People get mega rich. They worked like crazy. Maybe they took a lot of Adderall or whatever other abuse they did to their body to focus really hard and work, 16 hours a day. And they did it. It actually worked out. They made a fortune. And now they've got this fortune. And some of them, they're like, I guess go make another fortune, which kind of looks strange to a lot of us. And a lot of them are like, well, I don't want to do that again. What do I do now? And then they take a bunch of psychedelics, they go on some journey, they do a lot of therapy or whatever, and they're like, oh, fuck, I kind of went the wrong direction. And now they want to do something very different. It's not that they repudiate the whole way they got there. They might still be very much in favor of what they did. But my point is, just about everyone agrees the destination is not nearly as important as the journey. And everyone who's kind of reached a destination seems to agree on that fact. You never hear someone be like, oh, it was so much sweeter and lasted so much longer than I thought. Like this, I'm like much more glad about this goal that I achieved than I ever thought I would be. So with that kind of being this one-way miss that everyone seems to have, is there any way to balance continually striving towards goals? Because that's super important towards happiness and contentedness too. You can't just be a person without ambition, without any ambition, I think, at least in the Western world.
I would argue that you can. If you're one of the, if that doesn't tickle your boxes, I'm sure you can be that guy.
With no ambition?
You can be whatever you want.
But I'm just saying, have you ever come across someone, when I say no ambition, I mean someone who's not interested in being a particularly good father, a good friend, who's not interested in being particularly affable with the people. They have no ambition? Is like, have you ever met someone like that?
Yeah, maybe they have the ambition of just enjoying life and being present. And I guess that's an ambition and that's just a way to life. But I've met a lot of those.
No ambition to me is needle in the arm and see you later next week. Like, that's what I'm seeing as no ambition, but I guess that's a strict, interpretation.
It is a little bit, but what I would argue is, you said you were talking about the example of the Silicon Valley. Did they plan to die?
I think
maybe they didn't.
Most of them do plan on dying. There are a few these days who do not.
They know they will.
Yeah.
Did they plan to?
Did they plan?
So if you just know what you want out of life,
you help me understand what the difference. What is plan to die mean?
If you just live your life knowing that it just boom at any second, you will probably just enjoy life a little bit more. You will be more respectful towards your time. You would just Wouldn't
you just be very selfish in a lot of ways?
I think so. I'm not planning to die tomorrow, but if you just have this and know this in the back of your mind, just contemplating your mortality once in a while, it really helps you to just have a better energy towards life and just enjoying time a little bit more. You can still focus towards one thing if you decide to, but you won't lose what's the word? See, it's hard to speak in English. You won't lose perspective. You won't lose perspective. So you just know that those things won't matter at the end. So you will lose, maybe you will work through, have some types of riches and fortune and fame and whatever that tickle your box, but you won't just dismiss everything else because you know that's not there all there is. This just becomes very, it becomes very important to know yourself and to know what actually matters to you. For me, it matters just, I like doing my best. I like just having life. I like having a good experience. I like just making you laugh when you're not supposed to laugh, like when you're a bit sad. So I just like knowing people. People's history, it's so fun. Like it's such a wonderful and just interesting thing to just figure somebody out. Why are you like this? Why are you this person? So you see me in the room, I just
Psychology degree. That should have been the answer.
I mean, I guess I could have been. I just love just talking with people, and I hang out with the dealers, I hang out with the TD, I just hang out with everybody, just because everybody's so unique and they're interesting, and just if you have a chance to just speak with somebody, they can just give you this little gems all of a sudden that it really just makes you like, wow. And this is how I live my life. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that I'm not dedicating this ridiculous amount of time to studying poker. It still does, but I am bettering myself through the game. I am learning about me, about people, about, so if you just have this perspective of where you want to go and why you want to do that, then everything just becomes very easy. That this just makes me happy. Getting better makes me happy. Learning shit makes me happy. The other day I was speaking with a friend of mine. He's a professional soccer coach, football coach. And he's a long time friend of mine. He's very well driven. He's still on the lower divisions in the UK, but I'm sure if the guy was in our field, he was one of us. Top of the field, because soccer is much more competitive. And it was telling me a bunch of things, and all of a sudden I made him this ridiculous amount of questions. And I was like, it's going to look very odd, but I was so intrigued. I was like, how do you study? How do you prepare your field? Because I'm sure eventually you just give me something that I will just be, oh, wow, cool. Maybe I'll use this.
Yeah.
There's so much to learn. There's so much to learn on every field that if you can just put yourself out there, you will learn. It doesn't matter. You need to be good need to be good on 50 different things. But you can just take from 50 different subjects and just put it to your craft. And then you just better your craft, and then you better yourself. Then you go and drink from other crafts again, and then you just do the same thing. And the more you get better what you decide to as your main objective, the better you're going to be at everything else. I don't think you get better at poker, for example. It's a very good, and you don't get better about, some of us don't get better. Don't get too much better about emotional balance, about learning how to deal with the emotions. And if you deal well with your emotions, you're gonna be such a better dad, such a better husband, such a better son, such a better friend, because you just know how to deal. If you understand variance, you're gonna be such a better in life. If you understand incomplete information, you're gonna have better decisions in whatever you do. So I think that's you don't need to be this square guy just down the tunnel and to get great at one thing. I don't think if you just listen to Nadal or Federer or whatever the best guys in sport, you don't see them as boring, one subject genius kind of guys. You see that they're pretty. Yeah, have you read Stevie's Twitter post, which I never thought I was gonna read because it's Stevie and it's Twitter? You see that the guy obviously, you haven't had the chance.
I don't know.
You see that the guy obviously went through a path through poker, mostly I would say, to just get to that conclusion. So it's something. It's very common that people just get pretty good at a bunch of stuff, pretty good out of the 50 different things when they're focusing on just one.
Mm-hmm.
You see athletes. You see Wemby, French guy, NBA. Loves philosophy, and I'm sure he took some whatever he read and put it in the NBA court. So that's how I see. You don't have to be a square guy if you want to be great at one thing.
Yeah,
you can still be knowledgeable about others.
I think in that you gave us a really good answer about what Juan Pardo sees in you when it comes to emotional intelligence. Your extroversion leads to so many different paths, talking to so many different people, that one of the when we talk about the shortcomings of live tells, one of the easiest traps to fall into is you see something. We'll just take like a facial tell, like he touched his nose and then he bluffed. And what is missing in all that is a baseline. Did you see him when he, bluffed another time? Did you see him when he had it? And they're like, well, I saw this and it looked very deliberate and then he bluffed or something. And you're like, all right, but we need a baseline. You need a big sample to work with. How much is debatable, but in your talking with so many different people from so many different walks of life and these varied interests, that's got to accumulate a lot when it comes to trying to recognize how to correlate somebody and how much they care about people thinking, well of them and their likelihood to bluff the river.
And I think it becomes from how interesting are you in actually understanding this guy. Mm-hmm. If you're really interested in understanding how he is, how he thinks, and because he's just an interesting guy, or because he's not, then it just has to be natural. I'm not faking. I'm not talking with you because I want to understand who you are. Then I can bluff catch one close decision on a river 3 years from now. This is not how it works. I just because you just like talking with you. It's just an interesting guy. So we just talk, and I'm going to learn, I'm going to give, and I'm going to take, and whatever that might be. But I know that this would help me eventually, because I will be bettering myself through this conversation. I will finding something. I will be enriching my soul, whatever that might be.
I'm just enriching my pockets. GTO Lab, go sign up.
And that will work. It's just how it is. Of course, then there's this line. If I'm not gonna discuss strategy randomly with people, then I'm gonna give how I think, how I play, how I approach a spot. And once I was approached by a training coaching group, and they were like, "Oh, we don't want you to give an." The answer was no right away, but I don't want you to give away like just say a button versus B line spot. We want to present you with some puzzles, and I want you to know how you would solve them. That's exactly what I do not want to say.
Yeah.
That's if you just tell me how you solve the problem, I know exactly how you play.
Yeah.
Introducing the GTO Lab ICM Trainer. Train all positions at once. The new and better way of learning poker tournaments. Master all stages of the tournament. Pre-bubble, bubble, in the money, 2 and 3 tables left, and the final table. Learn how to crush tournaments from our coaches and get the most out of the trainer. We have the biggest ICM library ever, with over 14,000 solutions created by Nick Petrangelo and Daniel Dvoris. Join GTO Lab today and stay ahead of the curve.
When you talk about conversation, for example, one of the things I think that can make conversation a lot more complicated than a game, and there are various types of games, but conversations don't have rule books typically, and they are often very asymmetric, but they may appear symmetric in terms of what people are, what their objectives are. Oftentimes people don't even really know what their objectives are. Take teenagers at parties. They're just kind of told, hey, you're supposed to like parties. And you're just like, wait, why am I talking to this person when I have a crush on that person? Like, oh, you're supposed to work your way, whatever. There's all sorts of complications. We play a zero-sum game for a living. We both feel like the vast majority of people we spend our time with are really high-level people who are high ethics, very enjoyable to talk to. That's kind of been a theme of this episode so far, is you talking about not only are they not robots, it's a very pleasurable group to spend time with. But I do wonder, we are poker players and we play this zero-sum game for a living, and we spend a lot of time in a zero-sum mindset. We even take it for granted, like it's just not cooperative. And then there are other people, like, an extreme end of the spectrum might be someone who volunteers for like the Peace Corps, or many of the equivalents, where they're out just doing a project, and you have to imagine their conversations are pretty different from ours. It's not usually, how do we exploit this situation and make a well that's going to be great for our organization, not for the people whatever. Point being, do you think that playing a zero-sum game for a living bleeds into a mentality for us at all and makes us zero-sum thinking about things that we might otherwise not want to be?
I think actually the other way around. I think it's even more likely to have people that's very given and generous on that reach the top of this zero sum game. You see a lot of people just give a lot to communities and do their best, and not every. I don't think it translates because we're trying to play a zero sum game. We're not trying to play a zero sum life always. Sure, there's opportunistic guys. There's guys with less ethics. There's guys that really want to get rich because shove the money up your ass, buddy. Go ahead. Or other people not. They're just want to. They just love the game. They want to get better. It's something that they enjoy at. And I don't feel most of the guys that I played against are the zero-sum life players.
So
the other way, I think it's more likely they do not have that mindset in real life than they do.
okay, I'll tell you a story that kind of illustrates a little bit of what I'm talking about, and it's extreme. I don't know that many people, went through this, but I think I told it in Ben Tollerain's episode. When I was playing Heads Up nonstop, I was like, let's say 19 or 20, and my dad and I went to dinner, and I'd been up all night playing Heads Up, and it was kind of like a cafeteria style restaurant, and they asked me which side orders I want, and I wanted green beans, and my natural inclination was to tell her something else, as if I was check raising the person who's feeding me. They're just serving me a side, and I just couldn't, I had a hurdle. Don't tell her green beans or she'll know. What the fuck is wrong with me? I was like, oh my God, you're playing too much poker, buddy. This is not how you live life. This is not, and it was just a snap moment. I didn't have a lot of sleep, but it did light something up for me, which was that it was starting to kind of move my instincts into an adversarial way. I don't think I was crusty with people or being a dick, but, or at least not any more of a dick than I usually was. But, do you feel like there's any decompression period for you? Do you feel like earlier on there was anything, or is it just kind of a seamless transition? When I'm out of the tournament, it's back to non-competitive life?
Yeah, it was always been, I think I focused so much on competition, and it has been a competition-oriented life since I'm 14, 13. I'm 36. It was my birthday yesterday. It's just natural. The game is the game. The life is the life. It's just, they don't mix.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I'm not like that in real life. It's just not who I am. When I'm competing, I'm competing. So the beast just stays where the beast is supposed to stay. Everything else, you just go back to just being normal and friendly or shy or quiet or loud and obnoxious or whatever it might be. Just then you compete, you play the game, and you go home. It is what it is. I'm just natural.
How about prolonged downswings? Do you find that they affect your mood at all, or are you pretty adjusted to it?
I mean, it's not fun. Is it fun? But also, what's not fun? Getting sick. Getting sick's not fun. Yeah, car accident, not fun.
Yeah.
Losing relatives, not fun. There's a lot of things not fun in life, so you just fucking deal with it like everything else. It hurts, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it hurts. Sometimes it doesn't, you just deal with it. And again, unless that's the background. That's who we are as a family, as a people. The Portuguese also, we just have this natural way of just laughing at our problems. And people from there just have this natural way of just working really hard. See Ronaldo. He's pretty good at football. So we just who we are. It's just who I am, at least. I'm not entitled. I don't feel like I deserve to be winning all the time. I think that helps me at not being so down when things are not going my way. It sucks. Sometimes I get annoyed. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'm okay. Sometimes I'm a bit more edgy around work. But then I try, and it takes me a little bit to decompress if I'm tilted or not tilted. In terms if I'm just feeling like I didn't give my best, that gets to me. But if I just give my best, I go to sleep. Mm-hmm. I go to sleep more or less happy. Yeah, I don't like to give my best to lose. Don't get me wrong. I don't buy that. I don't buy that bullshit. We give you your best. I just sleep much better when I give my best than when I don't. But that also matters when I win. Sometimes I'm doing well and I just didn't do well today. I just know I didn't do well today. I fucked this hand up.
Yeah.
And I just didn't do well. And so that's how I rate myself. If I do my best, I usually feel pretty good, even on extend downswings.
Want to ask you,
and I try not to have extend down. I try really hard not to have extend downswings.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if because people sometimes it's just believe in the downswing. You know, they just keep playing better and better and worse and worse and worse, and then they just kind of, I'm on a downswing. I was on a downswing. I never start my day on my downswing. Not a lot of days though. Some days yes, but most days I don't start. Even if I haven't won recently, where's the goal? Oh, I haven't. Last 4 months I'm losing. I'm winning quite a lot in the last 4 years, buddy. You know, it's just where you put the goal. This trip I'm losing. What about the trip before?
Yeah.
Does it matter that you changed city? Like, just, you know, I think we're all, no offense, but I think we're all a little bit childish about those things.
Sure.
As a community, we're pretty childish. Like there's bigger issues out there, and we just kind of, oh, you're under the swing. Fuck off. You know, like Nick said, yes, who fucking cares? Work harder. I don't care.
W Coop Main Sunday, biggest Sunday of the year. So excited to be playing today. Can't wait. Good luck, everybody. Grow up.
Did you watch Divorce's episode at all?
Not yet.
Okay. I spent the first
I'm going through
in order. Yeah.
a lot of those. Yeah.
I spent the first,
Not in order, but
the ones you want to watch.
the ones that I know the least.
Oh, okay.
They're the ones sometimes I'm more interested. I haven't watched Stevie yet, but it's the one I think I understand him a little bit better than others. I think Ike was the one that I jumped right away. Nick too, because Nick was also a tough. Not that Daniel's not a tough puzzle, but it's just the ones that I haven't. I'm watching not because I want to see how they are, and if I don't know them at all,
What episode surprised you the most?
None. I don't think I've been much surprised.
All right. Question.
If I've one just gave way too much. Like, what the fuck you do, bro? I was like, well, how are you this naive to just say all these things? I'm not gonna say who. I was like, you're fucking insane. Like, you give, yeah, wow. I was like, the nursery fucking decision, business decision. Nursery rhymes business decision. I thought it was like outstanding. It was like just giving everything away. Go ahead. I was like, oh, I'll take it.
A conversation that we've had a few times on the podcast that interests me a lot is around confidence as a poker player. Tell you a quick story. A few weeks ago, I'm playing table tennis against a guy I play a lot with. We're very familiar with each other's game. He puts me in a really bad spot, and I take a desperation shot from very far away, very aggressively. And if I'm being honest, I would guess I'm probably about 3 to 5% to put this shot on the table. And in that moment, I actually believed it was going on, like as I swung the racket. And I missed. I actually missed by a fair amount, which is exactly what would happen most times. But I was playing phenomenal for me up until that point, and that's why I somehow believed this. And I told him after that game, before our next game, I was like, this is some pretty delusional shit. I actually thought that was going on. And in our little conversation, I was saying to, my playing partner, I actually view that as a good thing. That I was that delusional correlates to me playing really well and continuing to play well. And there's this weird thing that I think most athletes will agree to, which is in many ways, you don't want to feel like a rational, objective arbiter when it comes to your game. You kind of want to just believe you can. Now, you don't want to believe you can do anything where you're just going to pull up from half court and shoot threes, but you want to believe you're going to make it when you drive to the bucket. If you're maybe 45% in reality, I think it's healthy to have this belief that you're 60%, except for when it comes to, hey, you're supposed to pass instead. But navigating that in poker, it's much less clear. I think most of us are just like, whoa, you can do some really bad shit if you're too confident. How do you view this, and how has it been in your own journey throughout the years as far as being too confident, not confident enough? How do you kind of find that sweet spot? And do you have any identifiers that help you say, I'm in the sweet spot right now, or I'm playing with too much or too little confidence?
It's how you just detach yourself from the decision as well. So if you want to believe you're going to make the shot, that's extremely important. but you also want to choose which shots you take. Because it happens, the hot hand bias in NBA, or this culture. You're running hot, give him the ball, and then the guy is shooting with two guys just hanging by his neck, and he's taking terrible shots. He's gonna probably, if the shot is 20, maybe his odds of making it actually around 20, because he's fully believing that he can make it, but there was such an easy 40% shot next to you. So that's how it is. It's biased, and a lot of people don't have that because they're either overconfident or because they're not confident enough, and maybe being confident maybe can makes you. I think overconfident will make you underperform. I think underconfident would definitely make you underperform. Just the right amount of confident, I think, is the best.
How do you become
but also you need
Goldilocks?
to be aware. Say again.
How do you become Goldilocks?
Gold?
Oh shit, this is an American thing. It's this is too soft, this is too hard, this is just right. It's like a fairy tale kind
What's the name of it?
of Goldilocks.
Okay. No, you just it's just something that's probably talent, one of the most important talents in poker.
Okay.
We do have a small percentage of super high rollers who are just guys running really well, a little too delusional about how they play. Because variance will dictate that. We always be exposed to the guys who run better than they should. This is me coming from a super hot run, but I'm aware. We'll always be exposed to the guys that overrun. Tradition. We'll be exposed to the really good guys who extremely good. They will probably make it no matter what. The guys who are just as good as them, but if the run was a little too bad, they won't make it. Then the guys who actually needs average run to be, or then average run to actually arrive. And then you have a lot of guys who need a really good run to arrive. And then we will be exposed to all of these. And then you have a guys who need to absolutely sun run to arrive. And we know they're not going to be there if they don't change soon, because sun run doesn't last forever. So we will always be exposed to these. It's very unlikely that you will be exposed to a guy that needed to sun run really well and didn't. The guys that run below EV, if they're there, let me phrase it a little bit better. The guys who run really below EV, they'll only be there if they're fantastic. Otherwise, you just don't see them. So it's much more likely that we see a guy that's not so good that run extremely hot than the other way around, than the guy that's
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's something that's very misunderstood by the
that's-
poker public. That is, spot on.
Yeah, unless you just fact-driven, level-headed guy, then you kind of know.
Yeah.
I think I do a very good job. I'm tooting my horn now, of just not being that influenced about. I never watched Shark Scoop. I never watch. I don't know. I very rarely used to watch who wins or not. No, I do, because it matters if they're on downswing or upswing. But I never watch. I would bust seventh. I don't know who won the tournament.
So take Shark Scope, for example.
I want to base my decisions on everything that I see.
A tournament player.
Sometimes I would miss it. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. You go ahead.
If a guy won whatever million of this amount of time, I'm basing him on the plays that I see. And then all of a sudden, if he's just winning a little too much, and my opinion is that it's not that good, maybe I'll double check to see if something is wrong. Sometimes there is. Sometimes he does things that I didn't saw. Or somebody else that I really trust their judgment say the guy is good. But sometimes I go double check and say, no, it's just not that good. Sorry, buddy. I will live and die by the decision. Unless, again, if great poker players keep saying that he's amazing, maybe I'm wrong.
You made me
my judgment is not.
Yeah, you made me laugh so hard once. Actually, it was embarrassing. I had to keep my laugh contained because I didn't want to offend the other person too much. But you, me, and another player are playing a tournament in Vegas, and this person is explaining a joke that's been going on where someone has declared them the best tournament player in the world. And they, in explaining this joke, turn to me and go, and I'm not the best tournament player in the world. And you look right at them and said their name and go, yes, we know you're not. And he backpedaled and got so embarrassed, and it was awful. And I was just like,
I remember. Sometimes it's my intrusive self, just because I have to contain, because I do come from a background where these little jokes are just day-to-day things. Like I remember, like I used to have a guy who was Like I was guarding him, and I was just on his face, and it'd be like, I'm open. And then the guy gets the ball and he scores. Like, you fucking this motherfucker. Teammate. So this is something that is just natural, that little give and takes. I was the back of the class guy just making stupid jokes. But in poker, you have to, I remember because his balloon just popped off so bad. I was like, oh, okay, he actually matters to him. So
that was
don't be
uncomfortable.
thinking, it's just,
He's a nice guy.
but I was just making a joke, like, because he was starting the conversation about saying, of course they think, but his basis was he wasn't. So I thought I could make a joke, say, no, you're not. And then I felt that he was offended by that. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, buddy.
Yeah.
But he was.
Yeah. I mean, overall, I don't think this guy takes much offense, but for a moment, it was tough.
Maybe we all do, and if it comes to, I also meant it on a fucking funny way.
Yeah.
Like I meant it that in a, of course you're not
actually
buddy.
Hilarious with it. Yeah. So let me ask.
Yeah, I know.
Let me ask you a question.
See, but this is who taught you that? Who taught you to understand that the guy actually, to realize that he actually believed that? And this is talent.
Yeah.
You knowing that, then you know how he thinks, then you know how he's gonna.
I mean, you just thought there are little eye
matters.
movements. There's micro movements in the face, and you just pick up on them just as a person.
He was just blushing a little bit.
Yeah. Well,
so this
he
is
stuttered.
this is talent. Some people won't notice.
Fair. You said something that stuck with me, where you said you need to be confident you're going to make the shot when you're taking the shot. But prior to that, you need to have this kind of, I can't remember your phrasing, but a proper self-assessment as to whether or not you ought to be taking the shot. So when I hear that, I think about this zooming out, zooming in process. And at the beginning, you're taking a meta decision. You recognize you have teammates and options and all of this, and you're using that optionality to try and find the best decision. And then you've committed and you say it's shooting. Shooting is the highest percentage. But instead of saying shooting is the highest percentage at 48%, there's this kind of self-belief that takes over, which makes it a binary proposition and just says, I'm going to make this shot, motherfucker. How does that work at the poker table? How does that, you find yourself, how do you take a reasonable approach? Because once you decide to bluff the river, you're just pushing chips for it. That's a pretty easy proposition. What does it look like? Is there any kind of analogy to zoom out, zoom in, where you are being rational at the point that is important, but just being confident at the point that is important there?
I mean, it's sometimes it is you've studied enough, and you go through mechanics, and you go through whatever makes your decision process, and you tick all the boxes, and this is option. It's not like we have 50 options. You usually have 2 or 3 or 4. If like one is check, other is bet, and maybe you have a few sizes. But sometimes it's all in the river. Usually just most of the time is check or just stuff the whole fucking thing. And it's just not so hard for you to get to that conclusion if you've studied enough. And then sometimes you just think it's supposed to go in there, and you don't have any reason not to go in there, and you just put it in there. Or sometimes it just feels like it's not going to be a good bluff, whatever. There's a lot of technical go to it, and they don't see an extra reason to deviate from that. You just follow through. So sometimes it's just not meant to be. There's some decisions that are taken away from you from what you already studied. If there's just some combos that just go in there, and it's very hard for them not to go in there, and some that don't.
Yeah.
Just the natural flush draw, whatever, just really blocks. And some of them are just taken away from you. And some others are just close decisions. They can be randomized too. I think I think you need to be confident with your decision making is. What's your process? Is your process solid? Has your process been solid? Are you focused enough? Did you upload every single information and to generate a good output? And if so, you live and die with it. And sometimes you just never know. You will not have that confidence when you put, it's a close decision. And some of it will be close decisions, and you will base on whatever you decide to base. Whatever, if it's the combo, you think it's 100, it's a technical. If it's the randomizer, it's the randomizer. And if you're one of those live guys, it's one of those, it just feels like he's going to call a little too often because this or that. Whatever you got to the end, you just need to trust yourself and your decision making. Not exactly if it's gonna work or not. If your decision making, sometimes I feel like this is pretty good bluff. And then I'm saying this to my friends, and my friends tell, yeah, it feels pretty good. The other, yeah, it's pretty good. He called me with this. And you're like, what?
Yeah. So
What? He called me with what? And then we're all playing different games because the guy overcatching me ridiculously. And this somewhat reasonable bluff catch just becomes not good at all. So not bluff catch, this reasonable bluff just becomes horrible. So it just, were you able to anticipate that?
Yeah.
Yes, you made a mistake. No, you did well.
When you talk about the process, that's kind of where I think a lot of this lives and dies. Was your process good? That's a very complicated question to answer, and I'll break down mine for you. I'm pretty open about this stuff. Put me in the category of nursery school, give it all away. I think that the way most of us go through our process is we do things in life that we like. There are parts of the process that we like, and those are usually the ones that we're good at. I feel like I'm good at the psychology part.
Sure.
I don't like to count combos. I don't like to do anything adjacent to counting combos. I like to find proprietary information that I think I can find and a few other people can find and most people aren't aware of. And then I like to zoom in on that information. And in the process, I'll sometimes forget a very big piece of information. Through coaching, I feel like I get an experience of how so many other people's process works. And one of the things that happens is you learn these different concepts. Like everyone kind of starts by understanding equity. Bluff with a flush draw. It's better than not having a flush draw. Okay, that sounds good on the surface. Then you find out like, hey, clearance, bluff with hands that can fold out better hands. Maybe don't bluff with ace king high as much or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then you learn more advanced concepts like blockers and unblockers. And then part of the chaos of learning advanced concepts is employing them where they don't belong. And I'll ask a student for his process in a cutoff versus big blind spot, and he tells me why a certain combo is really good because it unblocks blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? He's got 600 combos. Why do we care about unblocking like this tiny fraction? It's so irrelevant. Like incredibly small. And you skipped equity and you skipped clearance and you jumped to unblockers. So there are these tendencies. Why do these patterns emerge? To me, it's usually about doing what we want to do. Why back in the day was no one betting 200% on the river except for like a 2-5 pro who was just gouging a fish? Well, because it feels good to get paid off. And if you bet 80% on the river, you'll get paid off more than betting 200. And it's difficult to feel 2.4 times better about B200 than B80. So you follow your feeling. And when you learn these things about yourself, you learn what parts of the process you are good at, and it's usually tied to preference, and you learn which parts you're bad at. And then, like most things in life, you need to lean into the weaknesses and start getting good at them and make sure you check the boxes that you don't enjoy checking. Thoughts?
I agree with everything you said.
All right.
This one is going to be a hard one. Just kind of, I will just reinforce, we do get good at what we like because we just naturally spend more time into it. That's just a natural thing. And I think we should probably just play, I'm not even talking about poker, just play to the best of your abilities. So you play to your strongest points. So if I'm playing tennis and I'm pretty good with long points and playing on the back of the court, I will try to play that game more often than not. Be reasonable when you have to go to the net, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that's something, but you also need to impose what you're good at. So that's something that you will be focusing more often. You're horrible at people and empathy and whatever. But you better randomize pretty good. You better randomize pretty good because the lifestyle's not going to help you. So it just play to your strengths. It just makes sense to me. Yeah.
Interesting. See, that's the thing is when you talk about tennis, I think without knowing enough about differences in surface or whatnot, for the most part, you kind of can be a baseline player. And, you can have a strong preference and work towards your forehand a little bit. People will try and exploit you and go to your backhand. But if you're quick, you can, take up, 60% of the court, maybe 65 with your forehand. With poker, you can't really choose which spots you get in. If you're saying like, oh, I don't really like three, but I remember early on, I had a student like 10 years ago and he says, I really don't like 3-betting ace jack. And I said, I really don't give a fuck what you like with ace jack. Like that is not going to play into anything that we do here. In poker, you don't get much room for preferences. I'm kind of saying you have to work your weaknesses, that whatever it is you don't like doing, for me, it's technical side, is kind of what you need to do a lot more. No?
Kind of, not necessarily.
Like in your process. So like I'm on the turn, and I'll give you an actual example. This was a cool one. Dan Dvoris had a 3-barrel bluff against Martin Kabrhel, 3-handed in a 25K a few years back. We broke down the hand. Dan has a slight chip lead, open 6-5 suited on the button. We'll run it so people can see it again or whatever. But 6-5 suited, Martin defends with King Jack O. The flop came ace 2 8. I think it's ace deuce 8, rain, check, small bet, call. Turn is a 4, check, B90. Call with King Jack, actually has a diamond, and there's 2 diamonds on the turn. Very bold call. River, queen, check, all in, long tank, a lot of time banks, fold. And we talked about, I said, look, had he called, because he made a hell of a turn call that is not very theory oriented at all, and I could see myself making that same call. I don't support it, but I was kind of giving the logic of how I see myself make that call and how I could see myself make the river call too. Again, wouldn't support it, but it would be very zoomed in on, hey, maybe Dan doesn't take this line with ace 10 or ace 9. In that case, the king and jack are sick blockers. He never bluffs with a king pretty much, and the jack blocks ace jack, which he has pure, which Dan and I both agreed a lot of that intel could be right. That could be right on, but it still is only a fraction of the story, and it's a matter of overweighting that intel in your process. So my argument is that why I like that so much is I don't think a lot of people get there really quickly. With enough time, a lot of people might get there and say, hey, you know what? When I look at the solver, it takes ace 9 and goes bananas in Dan's shoes. But in practice, I don't know. I think Dan is like a coin flip to do this with ace 10. So in that case, my blockers are a lot better than a solver recognizes, but not recognizing that I'm still far too, far away. And I have too many big hands that, jump the line before King Jack, blah, blah, blah. Does that make any sense in terms of talking about like the fact that this one thing I really like doing would jump the line and fuck over my whole process?
Depending if you really like doing it, or is it really important? If it's really important, if you just whatever.
Don't we overrate the things that we're
this.
good at in life in terms of their importance?
We do, but obviously we do. But if you're confident that it's only the right answer is how much does it matter to the final range? How much does it matter? Mm-hmm. Is if it matters a lot.
But we won't know in the moment. In the moment, I won't have a solver in front of me, right? I won't have a no-clock solution.
The good players are the one who can weight things properly. They're the best.
Yeah.
They weight what matters a lot. They weight what doesn't matter a lot. They focus on, and this could be just theory, 100% theory. You're playing a limit game. Just play it 2-7 triple draw, and they weight it properly. At the end of the day, is how much it's weighting time properly. And for if you weight properly the amount of time you should be wasting or investing in X, if you just weight properly the amount of time you should be thinking about blockers, equity, clearance, whatever that might be, if you're pretty good at managing how you weight with what you do with the time that you have available, if you do that, you're going to be pretty good at whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
I think that's just kind of, if you just weight properly how much you should take offense to somebody just giving you the middle finger and a restrainer when you're driving. I don't weight it. I don't give a fuck. Or if you weighted how much somebody offended you instead of just these people just having a bad day. I don't care who she is. I don't know who that girl is. I'm not gonna weight it. Or if you're gonna weight it just tremendously and you're gonna waste this amount of time just explaining her that she was wrong and she was rude instead of just saying, yeah, fuck her.
Yeah. Just
go on with your day. Fuck that bitch. Yeah. Like whatever that might be. So I think that's what makes people good. I think you're pretty good at extracting information from players who don't want to give it. So I'm gonna give you that one. You're pretty good at that.
Fair.
It's thought process. It's your thought process. This is your identity. This is your iPhone password. If you give that one away, you're fucked.
You're 21 today. In today's poker climate, you are about as skilled as you were at 21, as ambitious, whatever. What do you get into? Do you start playing mixed cash, PLO, tournaments? What would you get into?
Tournaments because it's the only thing I actually
Both
like.
online and live?
I did start. Yeah, I did start with sit and goes because of just time management. I was playing basketball at the time, and I just can't get into MTTs. But I just like the thing of somebody wins at the end of the day, and that's just what I like. I think I would always choose the thing that I liked, and if there was a path for me to success there, financially good. If not, I would probably just pick something else. I always base myself on what I feels like I'm wasting. If I'm wasting time, because time is the only commodity you can only waste. If I'm wasting time, it needs to matter. I need to like it, need to have fun. Otherwise, I'll eventually just stop.
Would you encourage 21-year-old Joao to play mixed PLO, all three, just hold them?
I would encourage 20-year-old João to do what he likes to do, and I started playing mixed or learning mixed when there was not really a lot of money in it, just because I liked it. I love the art of poker. I think if you learn more games, you're a more complete poker player, and that's why I've done it, and I've just got really lucky that I stumbled. One of my biggest passions, it just became a path to do financially very well, but I would not have chosen if it was not a path in my passion to do very well financially. I would still have chosen it.
What do you view as the biggest threat to fair play in online poker today?
Card sharing is always the biggest. That's what I'm afraid of. Yeah, I guess AI, sure, if their AI gets super, but I think also websites, they need to be ahead of the curve. So all their business model surfaces around them being able to be ahead of the threat. So I just believe that they have the means, and they certainly have the motive to spend shitloads of money on making the system more fair. And I feel usually, at least now, I feel I'm fairly confident about playing online poker.
Tell me a bit about Winamax. Has this inside the mind of the pro that I've seen a couple of now, and it's very well produced. How many of those have you done, and can you explain a little bit about them to someone who hasn't seen one?
The concept is you play the tournament from inside the mind of the pro. So they managed to get 4 cameras around the table, 1 camera that...
We talk about being hungry?
The whole fucking day. Hungry, Mini?
Do you be like, damn, I haven't had lunch in a while. I really, really need some food. I gotta piss.
Sometimes, though, because you have this app that you will record the hands, like, because then they record the whole table, the whole day. And they will pick hands that make the show. So the most interesting hand, and sometimes you even just put, oh, I've seen this. You've just seen something. You say, oh, this guy really looks nervous or whatever. And then later on, you actually end up making a call based on that. They actually are able to go back and show the original footage that leads. But usually they will just keep the most, whatever is relevant for the show. If you manage to somehow get up and go take a piss, you might add on the voiceover, because we do the voiceover later. Oh shit, I really need to take a piss. I might as well do it, because staying here, you might just say something. Usually try to say whatever you're thinking, and you try to say it on the present, not as in the past. So I'm playing a hand, I'm playing against, let's just say Nikki Peasant. Nikki, this type of player, and then you just try to explain, or try to just put it out loud what you were thinking at the time. And we have this thing where we record what we're thinking at the time, and then we go to the studio and we record. And they manage to have this great shots from your perspective of the guy that you're playing against. And the show is so successful. It's not numbers are big, but not massively big. But the rate of conversion to the spectator is huge. Like you see the episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, people watch it as a Netflix and they get invested and they feel this level of empathy towards you. Like 3/4 of the time I get approached in Vegas, and because of the show, we get approached a lot. It's like, hey, I love you're inside the mind of a pro. Hey, good job. I watched it. Really cool. Because people, what happens, the difference between that on a normal stream, we're both playing a hand and they both see our whole cards and they just see our decision and what we did. It's not very personal. Inside the mind of a pro, you are like, come on, bad river. Does he have it? Does he not? And you just go through the motions of what you think, what you thought at the time. I mean, you embezzled a little bit, you'll Hollywood a little bit with the, I'm not thinking, fuck, bad river, but I might put a little bit of it in there. But people get emotional, and then they get emotionally invested in decision, and you explain everything you did, and you call, and the guy had it. And the people go through the same emotion as you did, like, oh, fuck, it was a good decision. And they actually appreciated, like, oh, wow, the decision was actually pretty good. I liked it. He taught me how to think. He showed me what he thought. I agreed looks really good, but he just got it wrong. Wow. And they just go through the emotions like, oh, fuck. They feel like they lost the tournament, but they played well because you guide them towards your decision. They were emotionally invested. They probably would make the same decision, then they lost. So they get this level of learning in entertainment and also emotional investment in the decision itself or the tournament that it does really well. And I was lucky enough to win the bracelet while I was recording that.
I didn't know that
I had the chance to record.
That's sweet.
Yeah, it was not as spectacular. We had 1, 2 of those, but what happens is we start with one pro, like Gus Hansen, last main event. It was the guy to start because he was new to the team, was such a big name. If he loses, we jump to the guy who has more chips, and then of course we are 10 pros sometimes in the tournament. It's somewhat likely one of us will get somewhere deep because there's a lot of chances. And the one that I won, a teammate of mine, Pierre Calamusa, he got 4th, and he was recording from hand number 1 all the way to 4th, and or 5th. He got 5th. When he bust, they moved on the last 2 tables. We were both kind of already. They were betting on both horses, so we were already recording.
That's cool.
So I got kind of. Still, I made it. It was pretty cool. Yeah, it's still. The last part of the job was from the TV table. So it was a feature table, so it wasn't as personal, but still,
that's sweet.
It was a pretty good show. Yeah, I really encourage people to watch it. It's
what I've watched has been really well produced. I thought it was like, I can't imagine being a poker fan and not being into it.
I had no idea it exists because it was always
YouTube,
French, and I don't speak. And then once you start getting to this is pretty good. Adrian's main event run last year was very, very popular. He did pretty damn good, and we also tried to make a good job of just taking all types of skills. I know a lot of pros watch it as not entertainment, actually just learning tool. And I know that amateurs who are just starting the game also enjoy it.
Yeah, that's a very tough, wide net to cast. That's very
very hard. Yeah. Very hard. But sometimes also the chips just speak. They know your combos. You're there for there's 3-4 episodes. There's a lot of hands they're gonna be shown, and your chips are gonna speak for yourself a little bit. Even if you don't go in through big detail, you see something they're not used to, and they will just. Of course, you just try not to randomize things in there.
Yeah. I get it.
I mean, there's not something I'm just gonna say. Oh, I randomize this one. Try not to do that. I decide to go a little more aggressive this time. Do I bet or not? I think I'm gonna bet this time. You go like this,
You spoke earlier about sacrifices when it comes to goal making, and essentially, when I heard you explaining sacrifices, it seemed to translate perfectly to what economists label as trade-offs. What have been some of the trade-offs you've made playing a life of professional poker that you might not have known as much going in when you started playing for a living?
Living away the place I love the most on earth for 10 years. That's the biggest one. A lot of my friends are there. I missed a lot of birthdays. I missed a lot of swimming classes of my nieces. I missed a lot of beers at the beach on Friday nights. I missed a lot of that. So all my sacrifices are not in terms of how much hours I put in, because I loved it. How much days I played, I loved them. How much poker I studied, I love learning. I fucking love learning. It's the thing. One of the things I like the most in life is learning. Learning is so fucking cool. It's about the time that I couldn't be elsewhere. That's what hurts. It's just like people are not getting younger. My mom's not getting younger. My dad's not getting younger. My sisters are growing up like fucking, like wildflowers. All of a sudden they're counting in English. The other day I was in there, she was like 1, 2, 3 with a fucking British accent. I was like, what do you mean? You were this little fucking thing. How do you already counting in English? Like 21, 22, 23. I was like, fuck.
That's funny.
Like it hurts a little bit. Like, but I think the hardest one is that one. I think you can you can picture it as my oldest niece making a draw of family and the people she loved on like 4 or 5 years old. And Uncle João was on the airplane. So that sucked. You're like, oh shit, But, it's life. So could be worse. That's the one that hurts. Yeah, that's the one that hurts. That's the one that when you're not spending as much time as you would like with your close ones.
Is there anything that maybe doesn't rate that highly in terms of the pain, but was kind of a surprise? I'll give you a little context. I've been chatting with kind of a new buddy who's 23. We met last year. He called me over to the rail in the 50K, and I thought he was a poker fan. And then he said, "Do you play at Broward table tennis?" And I was like, yes. And I was so excited to get this as opposed to something about poker. And it turned out he's like the best table tennis player in Colombia, just kind of a phenom at table tennis and an aspiring poker pro. He went out this year and he's been playing low stakes, has a small bankroll, and did phenomenal. And now he's very high on poker. And I think he probably has the talent to become a good pro. I don't know how good, but he's shown that he has the chops from table tennis to work hard, right? I'm trying to think about the pros and cons without being too biased about my own views on life, and asking other pros, because he's very into tournaments, what are some of the trade-offs? What are some of the ones that are not so obvious? They don't have to be necessarily big.
You spend a lot of time alone. A lot of time alone, a lot of time inside. A lot of time away from outdoors. It's repetitive if you do it online. There's a lot of those. It's a lonely road. It's a lot of doubts. Swings are hard, but I guess life is hard, so cut out that part. It is what it is. And it's not very essential. So that's something that there's a few of those. But if any of the things, I think the best way is just paint them the hardest, the ugliest version possible. And if it still managed to do it, it'll do okay. If he's not willing to go through bad, like nobody told me go be a poker player. Like nobody did. I just did it myself. So do you think anybody told me at 5'11" go be a pro basketball player? No. So we just got to a point that this is how you want to spend your time. Go. This is not how you want to spend your time. No. And sometimes it doesn't have to be rational. I want to spend my time. I don't want to spend my time like this, because rationally this will lead to this very poor life that I would like not to have. I would like to be more financially secure, and that's fine. But if you don't care, if you really love this to the point that you don't care if you're financially unsecure or secure, whatever it might be, you're still gonna do it. I think people just make too many business decisions when it matters, when it comes to life decisions. Life decisions are not business decisions; they're life decisions. Like Steve Jobs once said, I'm not the biggest fan of the guy, but I got an iPhone, and he said you guys do that, like you finish university, make a big fuss about it. I don't know how you call
Graduate.
it. Everybody has a stupid hat and what's in it. Yes. I'm not a fan. And he goes and he says something like this: I think I might be able to quote him word for word. He said, like in all matters of the heart, you'll know when you find it. So it just, if he doesn't know, if he likes it, he's just gonna go. If he doesn't, he just probably just doomed to.
Really? Because I'm of the idea, like,
at least
if he runs well, who doesn't like it when you run well? If he runs poorly, who likes it if you run poorly for a long time? It's kind of, like that's my big point with a lot of people.
But how do you know if you run poorly or run bad? You need to have the decision to actually do it. So this is what I mean.
No, he's going to, he's going to be
like
playing regardless of whether it's pro or not. I guess I just kind of, I think whenever I think of, I'll give you an example, a personal project of mine for years now. I have it's not a commercial project. Just for myself, I interview older people who I think are very emotionally intelligent, but more importantly, emotionally honest. And they're willing to tell me about things that they feel like they fucked up in life and all that. And I just, in some cases get lunch with them. In some cases it's over Zoom, but for hours I speak to them, mostly wanting to hear, I want to hear about everything, but I want to hear where they think they went wrong. And I want to try to answer or get answers from a bunch of people about questions that don't make too much sense to me. Like an easy one would be, why does so many people talk about wishing they spent more time with their family and almost no one says they wish they spent more time working? Are they lying? Are they lying to themselves? Is it a matter of perspective? But what's going on that there's a one-way miss? Things like that. Anyway, when talking to a younger person, if they're asking for advice, I am often, trying to think about what are the mistakes I've made and the people I know that I feel confident truly were mistakes. What could be rectified if I could go back? And it's not an easy question to answer because you have a different perspective at, I'm 38 than you do at 23. And it doesn't mean that the 38-year-old is right by any means.
I missed. There was no question.
No, there wasn't a question. I was just kind of, I forget. There might have been a question originally.
No, I believe towards the end of life, you kind of understand what matters. And like,
do you, or does what matters change?
That's
the question.
Yeah, sure.
Like you're 16 years old and you're a horn dog and all you care about is basically sexually related, and does that mean you were wrong at 16 or was that just what mattered when you're 16?
But I don't think you'll change that. I don't think that's something you'll change.
Well, I mean, you can temper it. There are certain people who are advised separately.
16.
I mean, someone's got an uncle who says, have as much sex as you can. And someone else has, relatives telling them, look, don't get a girl pregnant and be very careful about how you choose. And personality means a lot more. Find someone who's kind. It's...
I think it as long as you chose, you're not going to always choose right, but as long as you most of the time have the good reasons for what you chose, you're going to be all right. And sometimes you will make mistakes, but mistakes were based on, it's like the if you're religious, there's this really, really good line that I was going to say K-Dot, so I look more hip-hop head, but it's Kendrick Lamar, that he has this famous, it's kind of settled already, at least they stopped releasing new music, this beef between him and Drake, worldwide known. And one of the best lines he has, he just slides right under the door, people don't see it. It's not Not Like Us, that's the big hit. It's, I think, on Euphoria, it says something. He's just criticizing that his opponents or his rival or the guy he's beefing with doesn't take care of his kids properly. Because Drake is known to be his kid and lives with his wife and is a co-parent kind of thing. He speaks openly. And he says this line is like, do you teach the kids to do whatever? And he says, do you teach him to consider what God's considering? And I believe this is a big gem, not on a religious way if you're not one, but do you consider what this means to your future life? Let's say you made a mistake. So whatever. Do you consider why did you make this mistake? Or do you consider what this mistake is telling you? Or if you not want to be Lululand, if you don't want to be in La La Land, do you consider what this mistake could be telling you? Or So this is something that it's, he formed the phrase around the relation that Drake does not have with his kid. And he goes, do you teach him to consider what God's considering? And he goes like, okay, I fucked it up. Why? Why did I fuck it up? So you already go to the roots of the problem. What will this make me learn? What will the learning make me not do? Or what will the learning make me do? If you make a mistake of sometimes you reply to your relative, like let's just say your wife, and you did it a little too harshly, and then she got offended. Rightfully so. Why did you do that? Am I working too hard? Am I not breathing enough? Am I not going on my routine of, and what will this teach me on the future? Well, will this mistake not lead me to? If it will lead me if I keep doing this, but if I don't, well, maybe this prevent me a bigger discussion later in life. Maybe this prevent me whatever. And so this is something, if you just consider what the situation can lead you to on a religious way, if you consider what God's considering, that's how he phrased it. If you're religious, that's where you go. If you're not, you just go somewhere else. This is something that matters. So it doesn't matter if you chose right or wrong, if you chose the good path or not. If you want to do it now, if this will fulfill you, if this is something you're passionate about, do it. If it failed, you just redirect. It just doesn't matter. If the Colombian kid decides to be a good poker player and he goes on a path and it doesn't work out for 3 years, but he was just like passionate about it and he was having fun, he learned all types of stuff, great. He spent really good 3 years of his life. Just because it didn't work out doesn't mean he failed. Now we go back to Giannis and Antetokounmpo. Like Jordan got 6 rings. There's, I think, 12 or 13 seasons that he didn't got the ring. Was it those?
Yeah, but there's trade-offs. I mean, it will
No.
effectively end his table tennis career. And, there's something to be said for, of course, there are all these lessons poker teaches you, but I would contend that a life as a professional poker player is a very self-centered one. I don't mean necessarily because you don't contribute to the world, but you do have to focus so much on your own inner mental state, and it's not a cooperative environment. You're not trying to help other people for the most part. So there is this kind of battle to continue to work on your person while working on your poker game. I don't think they harmonize especially well in that sense. So, I mean, it's not without trade-offs, but I would say, yeah, I mean, there's plenty of.
Well, you get money. If you get money,
yeah, you learn a lot, and you get a lot of
money if you get money,
especially if you're good.
No, and if you do what you do, of course, but if you do well, you get money. If you get money,
you do poorly, you lose money.
You get options. You can do a lot of. It's true. It's true. Also, if you do bad on something you don't want to do, you also lose time.
Yeah.
And time is something you don't want to lose. Like it's life is limited amount of time. We all should plan to die. And if he goes on a path where he not happy about it, have you heard about those? I don't know if you don't have those as often in the US, but in Portugal, you have a lot of those guys that could have made it in soccer and they didn't. God, they were the worst guys at the bar. If I would have worked harder. That's one of the things I feel. For example, I have a very talented. It was pretty talented at one point, football player. He's a very close friend of mine. We're going to hang out very soon. And he got a chance at Benfica, which is huge. And he didn't do well, but he's like, he knows. He wanted to party. He wanted to go to college. He wanted to go. And he's very well-witted. He knows there's a chance he could have done it, but he also knows that he chose not to pursue professional soccer, and he knows why. And he believes that why was very important at the end. And it's okay. And you have those guys that are like, man, I should have done it. And those are the ones who live with the poison inside. Oh, I should have done that. Oh, I could have done that. That's such a poisonous life to be lived. So as long as you don't live like that, there's no wrong decisions. If you fully commit to something, and if you like what you're doing, and if you just know that you're just giving your best, life is good. Life is only bad when you don't feel like that. Even if it doesn't work out, like you try your best. You went for the girl. It wasn't meant to be. It's life. As long as you have that idea, I think people just try to anticipate that, and they see it as a working well or not based on the outcome at the end. That's why poker is so good. you make a good play, it doesn't work out, you get called. Maybe you didn't even expect to be called by that hand, and you still live good. People in real life, they don't do that. They start a business. The business goes to shit because of COVID, and they said, shouldn't have done that. It's like, what the fuck you'd have known? You should have done that. And you should have failed because it was something out of your control, and that's okay.
So I was listening to a podcast called The Pablo Torre Show. I think he's an ESPN commentator, but I got there from a different podcast that I like that's not sports related. And I listened to an interview with the former Duke and Houston Rockets, Miami Heat player, Shane Battier, who was kind of...
Great.
Yeah. I'd heard some good things about him, but he was always referred to as like an incredibly smart player who kind of made the most of his talent. And he was an extremely hard worker. He told some crazy stories. Apparently every game at Duke, right before tip-off, he would puke into a towel. He never got over those nerves. He would feel that much intensity before.
Oh, wow.
And like one of the assistants was like really worried about him. And Coach K was just like, nah, that's great. This guy, I love it. I love how intense. I mean, it can't be good physically to be having to puke right before a game, but anyway. He said a lot of cool things. I thought it was interesting, but he was one of the things where he was tooting his own horn was he said, look, I was a metrics guy before there were metrics guys, basically. Like as soon as the egghead started coming out with data explaining like, don't take a 20-foot 2-point jump shot, no matter how open you are, it's just stupid. He was on top of all of that. When you were playing basketball, that's prior to your poker career, were you already kind of thinking in metrics and probabilistically? Were you kind of ahead of that curve or not at all?
No, it was right before it started. It was about to, it was still not a thing in NBA. So we'll be behind a
So would you say then, back then, we're all kind of results oriented. Was that a big shift when you played poker? Was there kind of a clicking moment where some better player or some statistics that you looked at convinced you like, hey, you know what? Stop judging things by the result.
It kind of came with just understanding the game. At the beginning, you get annoyed. I have 60. I didn't want, but then you just kind of learn pretty fast. That's how it is. I got really, really, really lucky that I started working with Jared Tendler right before Jared Tendler was a name anyone would knew. I had like a bankroll of, I believe, 5K, and I just jammed 2,900 into him just because I was playing poker at home and my sister was, and I got tilted or something. Maybe I just hit the mouse and into the table or something. And she was like, this is getting out of hand. This is not good. This, traditional older sister, very good advice. And I said, okay, if I want to make this has to be, I need to be in absolute control of my emotions and whatnot. So I just bought this 10 session pack with him. And granted, I started working ahead of time, and he would give me one session and I would just work tremendously on it. And all of a sudden I realized everybody was just a tilt monkey and I could just be way ahead of everybody else. So by session number 5 or 6, I was kind of not mastering, obviously I'm still learning, but I was doing quite all right for the emotional, managing my emotions. And then we went to learning, and that was the jump. He just taught me how to learn. And the incomplete information and just not having the right outcome was something that was just right there. So this is this is where I learned that the outcome and just to be focused on the process. And I credit him and those years from me, just because I started a little bit late. All of your friends were already playing high stakes, and I believe I just jump ahead of the curve on learning tournaments, learning mixed games, because I learned how to learn. So that's something was very important for me.
Nice. Another thing from that Shane Battier interview that stuck with me was he said he was very bad at retirement. He was a little bit bitter about how he retired. He was just like, shit, now coach is honest with me. In crunch time, they don't want me on the court. I'm not plus to the team. And that day comes for all of us in everything that we do. Poker, we can kind of stave it off much longer seemingly than in sports. But he said that life got infinitely more difficult without having a scoreboard each night. And his wife almost divorced him, and he went to therapy and he learned a lot about himself. And my question is about that future day after poker, before death, which you've talked a lot about, but after poker, do you think you're going to need to transition into another competition, or do you think you're pretty well set up to just say, look, those were my super competitive days. I'm never going to be as good at anything as I was at poker, and that's okay. I'm going to be into sailing, or I mean, sailing's still competitive. I don't know. I'm looking at my girlfriend's sailboat, but she'd actually get quite pissed if I called that non-competitive. But you get what I'm saying? Like we are very competitive people relative to the general population, and sometimes I think it gets lost in the fact that we're around each other and it's a homogenous population in that regard. And I wonder how addicted we are to competition, but that addiction doesn't have a negative connotation because it fuels what we measure as success.
I think I would be extremely surprised if I didn't struggle. Extremely surprised. That's all I've been doing since 14. That's been my main focus. But at the same time, as long as I'm occupied, it's okay. As long as I'm learning stuff and doing.
What if you're occupied with being like, holy fuck, this is tough?
Like, so if I'm just, you can be competitive on a way. You can, I think the word, I wouldn't say I'm addicted to competitiveness, even though that's all I've been doing since I'm 13 and I'm 36. So it's been a bit. But I would like to leave my competitive side behind. That's the goal after poker. That's what I would like to. But I would say I don't see myself in the near decade, at least, to not be productive. It's not the competition that I'm addicted. It's the productivity. Doesn't mean that I need to be doing something on a spreadsheet. It just means that I need to feel myself useful. If I'm just learning something, even if it's something that it doesn't really matter, like in terms of like financial, or I'm just learning some random stuff on YouTube, I'm feeling good. So I'm usually, after big periods of grind, I struggle with not the first few days of vacations are easy, but the following ones are hard. Cause I'm like, what do I do now? I want to do stuff. What is this? You know, the dogs, how dogs are like, what are you going to do? Are you going to jump? Are you going to go outside? Can I pee? Can I take that? I'm like that. I like, what are we going to do? Are we going to something? I need something. So that's something that if I don't have that, I will very likely go into dark places. But I have so many things that I like to learn and to do. I like to coach kids basketball, and I'm involved with my former club already I'm vice president of the General Assembly, and I will find something. We have a restaurant. I like that. That's cool. So I think eventually I miss reading a book a week. Maybe I will go into that, but I'm certainly will just put my mind into something productive. I will most likely go into a little too obsessive way of whatever I choose. Maybe I'll start running marathons, and that's gonna take some of the energy away. But I think that's something I will need to do, and I would say at least maybe I'm 60. Maybe at 60 I will. But I just I know you need to be doing something. Otherwise you just feel like, what the fuck?
Usually poker's not enough for me. Dan Smith said, like, poker doesn't scratch his competitive itch, and that resonated very strongly for me. I'm like, oh, there's not nearly enough decisions. If I'm playing heads up, if I'm playing, a few tables of heads up on an app or something, or if I was playing 20 tables of online tournaments, which I don't do either of them in the past many years, that would scratch the itch. But like, I don't feel productive when I'm sitting even at a Triton table. I feel actually very unproductive. And I'm with you. I think that productivity addiction, that's how I feel. I have to exhaust myself because by 8 p.m. I don't have the bandwidth, or I don't have the focus to do what I would call productive work of almost any kind, except for, let's say, wrestle with my son or play like a video game with him. And yet I have an urge to do more. I want to be writing. I want to be doing something, and I have to have myself fully exhausted to where I can actually enjoy relaxing.
Okay, in my side, like, I just need to be enjoying what I'm doing.
Yeah,
that's what I mean productive. If you can be productive at the beach with a buddy, cracking a beer, and it's just fine. But I need to be doing that. If I'm just there around the table, around the living room, not doing much, then it sucks. But if I'm on a long walk, my dog, not doing shit, that's okay. I am doing that, you know, like it's just occupied might be, because productive means doing stuff, like achieving, not exactly, just being, just having, just feeling that your time was well spent. That's what I do. I don't, it's not, you know, it was a productive time.
I agree. Yeah.
Could have been just fucking around and just cracking, you know, fifth grade jokes, you know, it could be that one. That's okay.
Yeah. Any good conversation, anything that if I feel like I brought fulfillment to someone else, that's super productive.
I think this is why main reason I chose to do this, even though I've always, from a competitive standpoint, because I feel it's productive. Like you put things out there and people just feed off of, and then I like feeding off people podcasts. What a bit of a, if I manage to, I'm not saying that I have all this knowledge to share with the world. That's not what I'm saying. But if you can also share with you and you share with me, so why not? You know, that's the main motivation for me. Just have these conversations are just cool about that.
I agree. All right. Joao is going to break down a hand for us from his 100K WSOP win that was just a few weeks ago. Starting off, the bubble had just burst, and you've got 18 bigs in the hijack, opening ace jack O. Any decision for Chewy? Bubble just burst, king 8 suited in the small blind?
I would say it's a fold. Well, yeah, I would say it's a fold.
Ivey's got a lot of chips and king 4-0.
I mean, king 9 is a vip, so, but I'd still say king 8 is a fold. Yeah.
Fair. King 4-0 here in the big against hijack. We've got a mountain of chips. You've got 18 bigs. What do you see as the options?
I mean, it looks like a vip. I would say calling or a 3-bet folding could definitely be in there. Sounds like one that could definitely make the 3-bet fold to 5 EBs or whatever that might be. Yeah, but calling sounds for sure the option you should do more often.
Phil's going to go for call. Queen 4-2 rain. Phil checks.
B25.
How do you like B25? Whole range?
Mm-hmm. Or B20 or whatever. Yeah, I don't split here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we're looking at a hand that if there's any checks, one of the better candidates. So when you B25 this,
it's very likely pure. It could be one of those 90-10. Yeah, but I think it's pure.
So you do bet 25%, and Phil goes for call with king 4. Turns trips.
Yep.
As Phil, are you playing leads here? Are you playing a lot of leads? No leads?
Yeah, definitely playing a lot of leads. I would use a smaller size. Phil went fairly big, but Phil kind of does Phil things. So his sizing is usually just round up. He doesn't. If the round number is 43%, it doesn't care. If it's supposed to be 33 or 25, you just go a bit round. So give me worse odds, but I didn't read too much into the size, because if you played enough with Phil, you know that he tends to side on the bigger sides, and he leads. He should be leading quite a lot here. I think I might have, obviously, out of range, so I'll have a lot of natural folds here. Let's see, I think I'm around the type of combo that I need to defend.
Do you have any hands with stronger showdown value that might fold, or pocket fives finding any folds here? Or is pretty much ace jack and up can't find a fold?
Ace king definitely doesn't fold. Ace jack to this size, depending how much Phil is actually leading. If Phil never had an no pair no draw type hand, let's just say he floated king kind of has a little bit of back overcard. Let's just say he floated jack 10 or jack 9 a diamond or something like this. If he never leads those, maybe ace jack starts getting into the muck at 40%. I wasn't sure. I felt it was about around the one that I should defend. I know ace king is not folding. Obviously the ace 3 and ace 5 is gutters. So from the no pair no draw ace highs, I believe this was about the one. But yeah, I still feel I probably fucked it up with the call. I probably messed on the situation against the opponent, against what happened later. I'm certainly I fucked it up. I fucked it up this decision. I wasn't sure if I was supposed to defend or not, but what I knew at the time, I think more likely than not, I would make a mistake by calling, not by folding. But anyway, I had a few reasons of some stuff that I thought was going to happen on the river that made me call this one.
So you do make the call for 37%?
Yeah.
The river comes with 3 of clubs. Phil's got an interesting situation. 0.9, 0.85 SPR. How do you view his spot?
It just feels like a clear shove for value.
Mm-hmm.
If he check call what he's supposed to check call, if he leads what he's supposed to lead, he should be bluffing quite a lot here. You will also have a lot of 4s, a lot of 6-5, a lot of ace-5, backdoor clubs eventually, or queen X plus clubs. So depends on how he constructs his range on the turn, which is a bit of a mystery here. You don't know how much of these, let's just call it nerdy things he does. He does some he doesn't, some he overdoes it. I don't know. I can't know for sure, but here just feels like a clear value. You will have natural bluffs that are no pair. He might even bluff high with some pairs. I think he can even do that because he will make me fold a lot of hands that I haven't beat. So it just feels like a natural shove for value.
So Phil doesn't do that, and no. And the question that emerges is, if he's not valuing this hand the same way you are, what bluffs might he be missing if he's playing his range kind of congruent here? What are the bluffs that a player might have on the turn that remain a bluff on the river in Phil's shoes?
He needs to be check calling backdoors that have no pair. So there's a smaller chance he turned ace highs into bluffs on the turn. Let's just say he called ace-9 of spades. I have a spade or no, I don't know. Ace-9 of backdoor, I don't know if I have a spade now.
You have the jack of spades, heart.
So I'm assuming it doesn't lead ace-9 of spades. So what's left, it's king-9 of spades, king-10 of spades, jack-9 of whatever backdoor. Those are the ones you most likely, maybe king-5 if it doesn't check rows, king-5 backdoor. That usually gets a little bit more into the check raise group. So those would be the ones that it makes me think is not leading on the turn when he doesn't shove this on the river.
Now, this may be a very Jonathan Jaffe question, but that first group of hands, the king-9, king-10, jack-10, jack, aren't they shove candidates pre-flop?
It could be, of course. It could be.
So, I mean, I'm just trying to make the case for, what, if you're going to underplay this king-4, we don't know what went through Phil's head, of course, but what assumptions might lead to that. And if I'm to underplay this, for me, it's saying those are a lot of one combo hands that all kind of mix check raise on the flop.
Sure.
And then if they mix or pure shove pre, or if you could stumble and, blunder shove them pre, it starts to really, the bluffs evaporate. But I think like the main concept I'm noticing here.
Then you need to bluff high. You need to bluff the deuce or the 3.
Yeah, some of that, but also maybe like how low does the call go? Do we get to check call 9-8 suited against hijack? I'm guessing no.
On the turn, you mean?
Flop. Can you check call 9-8 of diamonds versus hijack there?
I don't think so. No.
Yeah, I don't think so either. It's a tough one. So Phil ends up checking, which I think is peculiar even if he doesn't think his hand is worth a jam. Hey, Ben, let's go. But you would think maybe there'd be a block or something. I don't know.
It was one of the options, yes. That also tells me it's unlikely that there is a check call as wide as maybe I would expect. There's very unlikely a lead as wide as I would expect, which makes my turn call probably a blunder versus actual range. Or it may not exactly a blunder, it could be more polar. He could also be more, either he has 5-3-6-5, ace-3, ace-5, some backdoor clubs that are natural to bluff, or actually the 4. It could be one of those polar situations. This is something that it's very hard to guess. I felt at the time that I was betting range, ace-jack would be right around the time I was going to call, and I thought rivers would favor me in some type of way. Not exactly bluffing trips. That wasn't my idea, but I felt I could overperform on the river, and I decided this one. Against small size, I know this definitely called. Against this 38%, I wasn't sure, especially because stack sizes and whatnot, last 2 tables, but I decided to peel. But there's a lot of assumptions that I don't know, a few that I can guess properly, and these ones are the ones. They will probably lead a little stronger than he thought. He probably check called a little stronger than I thought. He's both check called. Both times that he put money into the pot are a little bit stronger, I would say.
I'm used to seeing you in light colors, so with this black hoodie, I'm getting some Aram Oganyan vibes.
So what?
Aram Oganyan.
Adam.
Adam?
Hey, we do heads up against each other on this one, actually.
Oh, how about that? So you put it in.
I did.
How do we get to a fold?
I think the decision of just putting it in is just kind of, it is what it is. I have
don't have many more
hands.
hands. Yeah.
Yeah. It just feels like there's a lot of, I would feel there would be a lot of 2x and 3x probably on the range. Not impossible that I bluff a queen once in a while because, actually I do not have all that many bluffs on the ace-3, ace-5 in the straight. I have a bunch of 20 combos of clubs. I have full houses. I do have a lot of reasonable strong hands. I can also, this is where the hand gets interesting. I can also value bet ace-queen plus because I don't expect him to check trips. So I just feel like this one just gets in there and I need to probably just work harder to get enough bluffs in. This is the one that you need to try to get bluffs in because they're not going to be all that obvious to, you're going to have a lot of value bets for SPR 0.9. So you need to work, you need to try hard to get all the bluffs because it's not so easy to find it. This one is just not an issue. This is when it just goes in and it is what it is.
Yeah. And Phil finds the fold with trip.
3 seconds.
In 3 seconds. Holy moly.
People are like, did they edit? No, he folded it. I did thought for 1 minute.
Yeah.
And he also thought for a bit of time before checking. He was looking, he was staring me the fuck down the whole time. And as soon as I bet, he goes like, I would bet a lot of money of under 8 seconds. A lot of money.
Wow.
Tight here. I'm being very tight. And just this is what run goods looks like too. Like something I have no control whatsoever. I think I made it as a good decision, but he checked this ridiculous combo. Checking is not ridiculous, but then folding it is. And then I managed to find this the butterfly effect so randomly that I ended up winning the tournament. Like this is just sometimes this is what running good looks like. When good things that you don't control just go your way. This, of course, I understand.
So yeah, that was a hell of a hand. And like you said, I mean, run good just comes in all different shapes and sizes. And those are the kind, I mean, do you remember the moment when you found out what he folded?
I thought it was miss RFID.
Wow.
Right away.
Wow.
I think he's not
Yeah.
that one. I could be value betting worst.
Yeah.
But again, our conception, our notion, our ease perception of what his range, what his turn lead looks like is much stronger than mine. So he assumes that I know he's going to have a lot of trips, and then he's on the river. I'm not going to call him that wide. And then he assumes I won't be bluffing. I won't be peeling all that wide. And then I guess it's one of those Phil things. He's thought, I mean, I believe I also passed the X-ray. He just looked at me and just felt like you have it. And he was like, yeah, it looks like I'm pretty strong. He's still jamming. What could he be bluffing? Not a lot, which is true. What could he bluff? Like maybe sometimes I don't have this ace-jack. So maybe ace-king or whatever. And he just feels like he's going to have it a little too often. I do have like 20, 30 combos of things that beat him. Not a lot of bluffs, to be honest. There's not a lot of bluffs. Especially if you feel I was confident enough on some extra information. I don't want to get into it. There's some history. I know, I understand why he folded.
Mhm.
I wouldn't have folded because I would never have checked that hand, but I understand.
When you talk about the turn ranges, it brings me to something. Poker's not unique like this, but it's just, our chosen profession. Some of the lessons you learn in whatever your chosen profession that kind of go just to life. That's such a large miscommunication the two of you had about how the turn is played.
Huge.
And that's what leads to the idea that you could have value bet yourself and folded him off of the best hand, and it would have looked even crazier had you been value betting and he folded that, folded that being the best hand. And it's just two, very high level poker players miscommunicating in such a large way about a sub 20 big blind spot. Not talking about like 400 big blinds deep and, Squid Game going on. This is like, something you guys have both done plenty of.
There's a lot of that. Those are the moments where like one of us is very wrong about this hand. Not this specific hand, but when that happens, you go like, well, there's something that didn't click here because you're value betting this, I'm folding this. Somewhere along the puzzle. On the crossroad, you went fairly right or fairly left, and one of us kept moving forward with the hand is supposed to be played like. So that happens quite often, once in a while. So
I was say we are moving forward to 3 recommendations.
I'm gonna go with music first, and it's a great album, but it's just an introspective album, and it just talks a lot about managing emotions and whatnot, and it's a well known, but I think is not such a well appreciated. Everybody talks about Damn and Good Kid, Mad City, the good album, the classics from Kendrick Lamar. I watched them yesterday, so I'm gonna go with Mr. Morale, which talks a lot about family and family feuds and collective trauma. It's a great album, so I'm gonna go with Mr. Morales first. As a book, for poker players and people who like to learn, The Talent Code is a good one. It's an amazing one. Amazing book. As in more of in human interactions, something I would suggest to just turn the chair a little more often. So view the situation through other.
I thought you meant literally.
No, like let's say we are both facing each other and the image is like this, but I would just turn the chair and just look at the situation from your perspective. What makes you act like that? What made you, especially on conflicts, why did you act like that? Why did you, because I do that sometimes. It was a dick. I said, okay, but why? Maybe he believed this or that. Just like in poker, why did Phil folded? Because maybe he thought this or that. And then just you see life through other people's perspective, and what, if you know them a little bit, why make them act like that? Why? And then it's going to be so much easier for human relationships, and you're going to just be a better friend, be a better son, be a better husband, wife. I see a lot of girls watching out. That's turning the chair around or whatever, walking on other people's shoes, just understanding why that happened instead of just judging right away. Because I know sometimes we also say something that it's definitely not perfect, or it just comes off the wrong way, but it was just meant because of this and that. It wasn't mean-hearted. Sometimes it just wasn't, and we just need to be more comprehensive with each other. And plan to die. Recommendation number 4: plan to die. We're all gonna die. Just live your life the best you can, and just more important, just let the others live their own fucking life. Like, just stop being so nosy. Like, if you don't like homosexual marriage, do not marry a guy. It worked out, it's problem solved. Just let people be who they are. I feel people are just a little too nosy on each other's business, and I that tickles my Nicky P cranky side. I don't like it. Just annoys me. Just let them be. Just let them be. It's okay.
Joao, Vieira, we're all gonna die. Thank you.
Time to die. You should plan to die.
No, not time to die. Jesus, it's got morbid quick.
Plan. You should plan to die.
Oh, plan to
0.
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, die with 0. Bill Perkins. Okay,
there we go.
Thanks for having me, and kudos to you if you have actually managed to get to the end of this marathon of a podcast. Go figure.
Thank you.